All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Appreciate you guys joining me today. Appreciate you waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up there. Hope everybody's doing well today. Got a bit of a different camera angle going. Hope you guys don't mind. But we have some very interesting stuff regarding PlayStation to go over and talk about today. Jerome Montgomery with the first super chat of the day. Thank you for that, Jerome. You're saying if the new handheld doesn't have its own exclusives to compete with all the games coming out to Switch 2, then that console is dead in the water, like the Vita. Interesting take there, Jerome. We will talk about that. Yeah, that's one of the big topics we're going to be discussing today is this rumored handheld PlayStation 5 that is apparently in development behind the scenes at Sony right now, and we have a very credible source coming out and letting us know, apparently, that this is what they're working on. So, Jerome, I will say much more about this. I'll keep in mind what you said here when we talk in depth about this new handheld. Move a little bit over here. Something else we're going to be talking about is not just the topic regarding the PlayStation 5 handheld rumor, but also it seems like Sony might actually be getting ready to do an event. I don't know that I'm buying into this yet, but we have a very reliable source who's not coming out and saying that Sony's going to be doing an event, but what they are saying is that Sony is preparing stuff behind the scenes. They're preparing announcements. And the person that's reporting on this rumor, or leaking this, I should say, is not saying that it's an event, but it could be indicative of one. Now, as we know, the Game Awards are right around the corner, so it very well could be that that is where these announcements are going to show up. But nonetheless, we will cover it, and people are excited about it. So we'll dive deep into these conversations today. Before we go in depth with any of these conversations, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching live. I also want to give a shout out to those of you who can't catch the streams live, but still watch them later on. I do appreciate that. I want to ask you guys to please do me a big favor and hit the like button. We are currently sitting at 42 likes. We could easily hit 50 likes, and let's see if we can push to 75 and then 100. It definitely helps more than you know. There are a couple of ways you can help support the content and support the channel and the community. You can become a channel member. You gain access to exclusive perks, such as the Members Lounge. You gain access to Morning with the Misses, which we've been doing, and you gain access to the emotes, the member badges, all that good stuff. You can also consider gifting memberships. I did set a hefty goal today, 50 members. Not sure if we'll be able to hit it. It would be great if we could, but if we do hit that 50 members today, we will do a Morning with the Misses tomorrow. Now, I was planning on doing more Morning with the Misses, but I will expedite that process if we hit 50 today. So we'll do it tomorrow morning. Third way you can support, drop a super chat. We are striving for a goal of 20 super chats. If we hit 20 super chats from the $5 or above tier, we will feed the beast. That's a second way you can help kind of feed the beast. And there's a direct donation link as well. So if you want to donate directly to the channel, feel free to do so. You can leave a message just like a super chat. But yeah, appreciate everybody who supports the channel directly. I'm only able to do this because you guys make it possible. Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to dive into these topics. Yeah, Jay Shako, I had to remove ModShip. It had to be done. Sorry to say, but we lost somebody yesterday, that being Waylark. He has supported the channel. He has supported the channel directly, financially, through super chats in a very significant way. And after you deleted his super chat yesterday, he got very upset. And I mean, I don't know if he's still watching or not, but he decided he's not going to super chat anymore. And that hurts me a lot. Like, I do this for a living. So by you doing that, it cost me pretty dearly. Maybe dearly is stretching it a bit, but he was definitely a huge supporter when it comes to super chats. So it had to be done, Jay Shako. But it is what it is. But I do want to dive into the first topic here, which is talking about Sony preparing for announcements. Are they going to be doing a showcase? Are they going to be doing a state of play? Or are these announcements that are being prepped, are they just in preparation for the Game Awards? Well, if we head over to WCCF Tech, they say here a new PlayStation event like a showcase or state of play could be coming soon, judging from what a very reliable leaker revealed today. Speaking on X, Billy Bilcoon, who proved to be extremely reliable in the past, revealed that a lot of PlayStation content is being prepared behind the scenes, and some new announcements are coming. Although the insider cannot say if it is an event that is coming. Seeing as there's a lot of content being prepared, it is unlikely it's just for the year's upcoming Game Awards. So something could indeed be brewing outside of single separate announcements. And so he posted the tweet. He put a picture up from the trailer where it showed the date of December 3rd, 2024. And he said a PlayStation event is really happening soon, ? I don't have the answer, but many PlayStation things are being prepared behind the scenes. Some fresh news is coming. Stay tuned. It says here it's been a very long time since the last proper PlayStation showcase, as Sony opted to go with usually smaller state of play presentations. A September showcase to present the PS5 Pro was long rumored, but it never happened as Sony presented the console without the big event surrounding it. Hey, you get down from there. So, yeah, this is the rumor that's coming from, again, Billy Bilcoon, who's been incredibly reliable with stuff like this. And, you know, people have been speculating about Sony doing a show for quite some time. We've been talking about it very extensively. And what I think is going on here is there are things that are being prepped on the back end that Billy Bilcoon somehow is able to get a hold of. You know, I think there's a reason why he's not able to say, is it a showcase? Is it a state of play? Is it something related to the Game Awards? I think it's because if you kind of follow the way that Billy Bilcoon has leaked these things regarding PlayStation in the past, it always kind of seems like it's coming from a place of getting some kind of back-end information regarding like videos uploaded to YouTube. For example, one of the things he did reveal today is that, yeah, it could be like retailer info as well. He did reveal that there is going to be a black version of the DualSense Edge, as well as a black version of the Pulse Elite headset and Pulse Explorer. So he either got that through retailers or he got that from, you know, the back end on YouTube. But either way, he's claiming that there are many things that Sony is getting ready to announce and they're preparing to announce. And so, you know, my read on this is it seems like it's a little bit too early to be like uploading trailers or stuff or something like that on the official PlayStation YouTube channel. If these are announcements that are expected to be made, you know, if these are announcements that are expected to be made at the Game Awards, I feel like it's a little bit too soon to kind of prep in that way. So the other thing we've talked about quite extensively, well, there are two things. Number one is that the first week of December, nothing's happening, which is unusual. The reason why that's unusual is because the first week of December is always reserved for the Game Awards. It usually happens on the 6th or the 7th or the 8th, somewhere around there. Sometimes I think even sooner. But this year, it's happening on the 12th. It's happening the second week of December, which again is unusual. So it seems to me that one of two things is happening here. Either the Game Awards had to move back to make room for PlayStation Show, or the Game Awards are just happening later than usual. I think both are plausible. Something else that we've been talking about is Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb did come out and he did say that his source told him there are no PlayStation events planned. There are no PlayStation events coming. This is, I think, worth keeping in mind because we have been following Jeff Grubb when it comes to his rumors about PlayStation events, and he's the only person that's been correct. And he said that his source told him there's nothing happening. So, is it possible that Jeff Grubb could be wrong? I mean, of course it's possible. It would be abnormal, certainly. If Jeff Grubb is wrong and there is actually a PlayStation show, that would be the first time, as far as I can recall, that he was just straight up wrong about telling people there is or is not a show. Is it possible that his source could have gotten bad information? So he, so the source wasn't able to leak it? Possibly. I mean, there are many different variables here at play. But here's the thing that's exciting, though. And this is something that I think is worth getting excited about. Oh, I'm saying it wrong. Bill Coon. I'm saying Billy Bill. Okay. Billy Coon or whatever. My bad. What's worth getting excited about, is the fact that Sony is prepping a show, whether that be for the Game Awards or on their own terms. And that's exciting, right? I think there's a reason why Bill Coon is presenting this leak the way he is, because he's trying to communicate that there's quite a bit going on. There's not just like one or two small things. There's like a whole slew of announcements that are being prepared. It is very possible that Sony could just be prepping all of these announcements and giving them to Jeff Keighley for the Game Awards. The reason I say this is because the Game Awards is a massive show. It is the biggest show of the year, honestly, when it comes to gaming. It's like the new E3, but it happens in a single night. So there's even more, not pressure, but even more reason for these publishers to say, you know what, we're going to make sure we put our game in the Game Awards. It costs money, though, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not free. And that's something that I think we do have to kind of consider, is that would it make sense for Sony to prep a bunch of announcements and then give them all to Jeff Keighley and then have to pay to have them in the Game Awards? I mean, that's my assumption. I'm assuming Sony and any other, like, nobody gets special treatment. You know what I mean? I'm assuming every publisher has to pay to have their game featured at the Game Awards. They are trying to make money. So what do you guys think based off of everything we know? We know that the Game Awards is happening the second week of December, not the first. The first week of December is when the 30th PlayStation anniversary occurs, and there's nothing scheduled for that week as far as we're aware. We're now hearing that Sony is preparing multiple announcements and multiple things behind the scenes. We heard from Jeff Grubb that there is no PlayStation event. There is no State of Play. There is no showcase. Whiskey Gaming, you're saying a 50-50 chance. Yeah, I mean, I want to say 50-50. I do. I want to say 50-50. But, man, I'm not going to lie to you. There are quite a few things lined up that sure do seem to point to some kind of PlayStation show. I don't want to believe it, though, Like, I refuse to believe it, because it's one of these things where it's like I've set myself up for disappointment many times before where I was certain like Sony's going to do a show, the secret showcase, everything's lining up, and then nothing happens. But what's hard to ignore is it could be PlayStation Experience. Yeah, technically not a showcase, right? Technically. What's hard to ignore is the fact that there are like 3 to 4 different things that are perfectly lined up for Sony. Number one, it's the 30th anniversary. I mean, that's a pretty damn good reason to put on some kind of show. Number two, the Game Awards is pushed back a week or into the second week of December, when that usually never happens. And the last time that happened was when they celebrated their 25th anniversary with a State of Play. Number three, we're hearing from an insider that they are prepping announcements. Number four, people have been doing nothing but complaining. Not everybody, but a lot of people have been doing nothing but complaining that Sony doesn't have any games because they're not revealing their first-party titles, at least not as many as they expected them to by this point. So there's like 4 solid reasons, but there is still the reality that Jeff Grubb, a very reliable insider, is like, yeah, dude, they're not doing it. Like, they're not doing it. So, I don't know. It could just be that Sony's going to have a crazy presence at the Game Awards, which I would be all for. I would not be against that. That would be awesome. Nicodemus, a member for 15 months, says, make sure you are subscribed. Let's get MBG to 100K today. Well, thank you so much for that, Nicodemus. Yeah, if you're new and you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. We are very close to hitting 100K. I don't know. So I do want to make this clear because I know people are going to ask, and I'll definitely have to reiterate this. Whenever I do hit 100K, there's a really good chance it's going to go back to 99K, because the way it works for some reason on my channel, probably because I stream so much, I move up, I move down a little bit, then I move up again, then I move down just a little bit, then I move up again. And so it's like a slower back and forth process, as I'm sure you guys have noticed. So, people are going to be asking if we're going to be doing like a 100K celebration stream. Not as soon as I hit 100K. No, I'm going to give it time. I'm going to give it a good amount of time to make sure we are good to go. It's going to be tough to go back down to 99K. Definitely don't want to do something like that, because I've seen that happen to people, and it's just like, man, that sucks, 101K. Head reveal was promised. Hey, I didn't say we aren't going to do that. I'm just saying I'm not doing it unless I'm sure we're going to keep moving up. All right. Man, it's going to be so nice though to do the head reveal, because I'm so tired of hitting. I'm so tired of I almost said hitting the hat, wearing the hat. I'm tired of wearing the hat, man. I don't know. I've gotten used to it, but people like have asked me, like, do you wear the hat when you're not streaming? Like, most of the time, no. Like, maybe when I go out sometimes, but tired of hiding it, man. I got to show my Xbox head tattoo. Just take it off now. I mean, you don't think that would kind of ruin it a little bit, But yeah, it's a huge milestone. I do hope we hit it. It'll be a big day. I feel like I saw people were saying, they're like, bro's been stuck at 99K for like 3 years. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's not for lack of trying. I don't know why. Maybe it just happens, Do I shower with my hat on? Of course, obviously. But yeah, man, I really do hope that there is something significant that Sony's planning on doing. And honestly, I do feel comfortable assuming they are going to be doing some significant stuff. Again, I don't feel comfortable saying I'm expecting a state of play or I'm expecting a showcase. I am very interested to see if we get an announcement, only because, again, there's so many stars aligning to point to that. But I've been down this road before, and it would not surprise me if it's just, no, these are just announcements we're doing at the Game Awards. But either way, it sounds like Sony's going big, or at the very least, they have quite a bit that they want to show. And that's very exciting. You know, there are many different things that Sony could be kind of holding on to right now that we know they're holding on to. Things like Blue Point Games' next title, Naughty Dog's next game, Santa Monica's new IP. Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, Fire Sprite. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Oh, yeah, Wolverine, of course. And you know what's interesting is we heard a couple weeks ago that apparently Insomniac was prepping to show some Wolverine stuff. So what did Sony do at last year's Game Awards? I don't remember every announcement they made. And in fact, it's hard for me to recall any of them. The only thing I do remember for sure about last year's Game Awards and what PlayStation brought is they brought quite a bit. I remember people walking away from the Game Awards last year thinking, man, yeah, they brought the God of War DLC. They were kind of walking away from it feeling like, man, that was felt like, no, I don't think people were saying it was like a showcase, but no, Concord was not at the Game Awards last year. That was at the May showcase, the May 2023 showcase. Let me see. I know Sony, they had the God of War DLC. The God of War DLC was huge. Let me see. What was announced at Game Awards 2023? God of War, Ragnarok, Valhalla, PlayStation 5 console exclusive Rise of the Ronin release date trailer, Final Fantasy 16's expansion out now, Black Myth Wukong. Let me see what else is here. I think that may have been it for Sony. So, okay, maybe not as significant as I thought it was, but I do remember people were pretty happy overall. They were pleased with what Sony showed at the Game Awards, but they did not bring Concord to the Game Awards last year. Concord was only shown one time. Phantom Blade Zero. I think that was Summer Game Fest. Mark Cerny was there. That's a massive W. Yeah. Well, to continue with this, it's time. Whether or not Sony's doing a showcase, whether or not they're going to have, like multiple announcements, which it seems like they are, it's time. Hey, what's up, Gaming Survivor? Good stuff, man. The power of Totokism, bro. But yeah, man, it's time. I will also throw this in here. The timing of this is interesting. People are wondering when we're going to get Naughty Dog's new game reveal. Neil Druckmann accidentally revealed, I would say like a week ago, that their new IP that they've been making has been in development since 2020. So people are wondering if like we're going to be getting a Naughty Dog announcement soon. It's worth noting the news just came out today. It's been confirmed that Troy Baker will be he will be in Naughty Dog's new game. So, I mean, he's known for playing Joel, obviously. I mean, could Joel be part of The Last of Us Part 3? Sure, but I'm going to say it's much more likely that Troy Baker confirming he's going to be in the next Naughty Dog game, I think that once again kind of confirms that, oh yeah, this is a new game. This is a new game. Jerome, you're saying let's talk about this handheld. Yeah, we are. We are in just a couple minutes. That's the next topic. Hang tight, Jerome. Hang tight. Isn't he the actor for Indiana Jones as well? Yes. Yes. I know, Mr. B. I know. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me. Boss, how's he looking over here? Don't chew the mic. Don't chew the mic. There's only one Last of Us game. So I do think that it's more than likely, you know, that they're trying to communicate it's going to be a new game. Troy Baker's going to be playing a new character. And again, I just think the timing of this is interesting, where it's like the same day we're hearing from Bill Kuhn that Sony's preparing multiple announcements, we then get the news that Troy Baker's confirmed to be part of Naughty Dog's new game. So I guess we will see. We will see. Boss seems to be acting better today. He was losing it yesterday. Don't. Oh my God. You are unbelievable, boss. I can't believe he just did that. He's hanging on for dear life, man. Uncharted sequel possibly being made by another studio. I mean, we've talked about that for some time, but I don't think, I mean, that's not necessarily, that doesn't correlate with this news, you know? Like, Troy Baker straight up, like, yeah, I'm in the next Naughty Dog game. You just hope nothing gets leaked for the Game Awards. I want to be hyped when I see the announcements. I mean, yeah, I feel similarly, but I don't know, dude. I feel like we are at that point where things are going to start leaking. Yeah, Irfin's saying, guys, or sorry, Anonymous Boss, Irfin's saying Chris Judge that Christopher Judge denied the rumors about the God of War stuff. Yeah, I did see that, which makes sense, I guess. But Anonymous Boss says 300 people watching. Hit the like button. Yeah, guys, if you could, take a moment, hit that like button. Unknown, you're saying I knew he lied. I don't think he lied. He either said something he wasn't supposed to, or he was... This is not an uncommon thing where people who are involved with certain projects, they kind of tease new projects and people immediately assume it's the thing that they're most known for, but it's actually something separate. You know? Saying nothing has changed at Sony since then. They are struggling to release first-party games for PS5. I mean, I don't think they're struggling to release first-party games for PS5. I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by struggle. It seems to me that Sony is well aware that the games they have in development take a very long time, and that because of that, there are going to be... The struggle, I would say, lies more in timing more than anything. Gavin says, we just had Concord, man. I'm not going to count that. Yeah, I mean, Astro did just come out. I do think people are quick, unfortunately, to overlook Astrobot. I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, but, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge that that's a new first-party title from Sony that reviewed extremely well and is a very high-quality title. Could win Game of the Year. It could. It could. Yeah, it's possible. Racket, you're saying Astrobot is your Game of the Year? Well, when it comes to all of these rumors and the speculation about an upcoming PlayStation event, I'll be obviously paying close attention. I'll be keeping you guys updated. I think that, again, the thing I want to say before we move on to the next topic, I just want to kind of, drive this point home once again, is that I think there is a good reason to be somewhat excited. Not overly excited. Don't get overhyped, but a little bit excited about Sony preparing some more announcements, getting ready to show off some more stuff. I think there is reason to be excited. And obviously, we don't know what those things are going to be. But at this point, I'm going to assume some of this stuff has to do with PlayStation Studios. Again, it's time. So, yeah, we'll continue to monitor this and see if we get any more info. Would I be excited for an Infamous remake if it was shown? I mean, I guess I would, yeah. I don't know that I'd be super excited, but I would be somewhat excited just because I never played the original Infamous games. I played Infamous Second Son, and I really did enjoy it. But people were telling me that the original Infamous games were actually way better in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I'd be open to that, definitely. But I don't think we're going to see that. Do I think we get a Metal Gear Solid 3 release date? I mean, if it's a Sony show, yes. If we're just talking about the Game Awards, no. All right, so let's move on to the next topic here that might be even more interesting, depending on how you look at it. So there's a report here from PlayStation Lifestyle. It says, new PlayStation handheld to rival both Nintendo and Microsoft. This is what's being reported. Following nearly a year of rumors, a major news publication has corroborated reports of a PlayStation handheld. This morning, Bloomberg claimed to have heard from its sources that Sony is eyeing a slice of Nintendo's market share, in addition to competing with Microsoft, who is currently prototyping an Xbox handheld. Previous rumors suggested that PlayStation's upcoming handheld will be able to play PS4 games. Bloomberg has gone a step further to claim that the portable device will be able to play PS5 games. The article gives us the impression that the handheld will play PS5 games natively, setting it apart from the PS5 Remote Player PS Portal. According to Bloomberg, the portable is in the early stages of development, so it might be targeting the PlayStation 6 generation, as past leakers have claimed. However, Bloomberg sources have added that Sony may ultimately decide to shelve the idea rather than launching it. The report further corroborates rumors that the upcoming PlayStation handheld draws inspiration from the successful PlayStation Portal. A known leaker had previously claimed that the PS Portal's unexpected success resulted in a renewed interest in handhelds at Sony. Bloomberg reports that Sony initially planned for the PS Portal to be a standalone handheld as opposed to a remote player, so perhaps the company is planning to fill that void. So this is a very, very interesting leak here. Now, yeah, we got to give some credit to both Moore's Law is Dead as well as Red Gaming Tech. These are two individuals that I don't think are reported on enough, but they do have good info, seemingly. And they were the first two to both report that Sony was in the early prototype stages of a dedicated handheld, not the PlayStation Portal, but something that would run games natively. But it seems like Bloomberg is the first to get more explicit details here. And there are a couple of things that really stand out to me about this report. The first is that it's going to be a PS5 portable, like essentially a portable that plays PS5 games, which obviously means it would play PS4 games. But that's the part that I would say stands out the most, because from what I can gather, a lot of people are very skeptical about this because it's just simply not really possible to do this in a non-super compromised way right now. So, I'm not too focused on that, like the feasibility of it. Like, is it possible for Sony to actually make a portable PS5? I mean, in 2024, probably not, without it being ridiculously expensive and impractical in some ways, and worrying about like heating, overheating and cooling and all that stuff. Um, but in the next 4 to 5 years, maybe. Yeah, I think it might, maybe even 3 years, right? I think it's possible. But the article also states that the biggest reason for this is that Sony wants to compete against not just Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch 2, but also the Xbox handheld. And it does say that Sony might shelve the project. They might decide not to go through with it, not release it. Here's why I think they are going to do something with this no matter what. I think they have to. The Nintendo Switch has proven to be a juggernaut, and it's like the first console to really kind of get this close to the PS2 and overtaking it. The Switch 2 is going to be, I think, an even bigger juggernaut. And the reason for that is because the Switch 2 is going to get way, way more third-party support than the original Switch ever did. And I think that will be a potential threat to Sony and their ecosystem, where because of the strong third-party support on the Switch, people may end up, I don't think it's going to be many people, but still, things like this, you kind of can't assume, right? It's possible that some people, or more people than you would expect, are going to say, you know what, I'm just going to buy a Switch and just make that my console. It's getting all the third-party games. It's running them well enough. And I get all of Nintendo's games. I can play it on my TV. I can play it on the go. So it'll fill in a lot of those gaps. And that's why I think Sony has to do this, because not only will they have a Nintendo Switch 2 that's getting strong third-party support, as well as having all of those very, very, very strong Nintendo exclusives that people will buy the console just for that alone and maybe stay for the third-party games. But they're going to have to compete with a handheld Xbox as well of some kind. Phil Spencer straight up confirmed that they are doing this. So I think it would be unwise, very unwise of Sony to not go through with releasing a proper dedicated handheld, especially when you see the success of the PlayStation Portal. Considering the PlayStation Portal was labeled to be a complete failure and something that just flopped immediately, I think there are just way too many pieces in place that say, Sony, you need to stop. You need to stop. Jerome, you're saying the Switch 2 will have a new game every 2 to 3 months, but the PS5 can barely put out 2 first parties a year. Sony doesn't have the studios to support another, I guess you're saying handheld. Well, here's the thing to understand, Jerome, about this report, okay, about the handheld that Sony's making. This is not the Vita 2. This is not the PSP 2. This is something totally different. This PlayStation handheld, I don't know what to call it. Maybe like the PlayStation Portal 2. I don't know. They could call it that. PlayStation Portal 2. This is going to be native hardware that runs your current library of games. Listen, if Sony goes through with releasing this, you will not have to buy a PlayStation 6 or a PS5. You will be able to buy this handheld and make that the way you engage with the PlayStation ecosystem. It will be a PS5. That's what it will be. And you can stream PS6 games potentially, but you can play PS5 games and PS4 games natively. So what I'm trying to say is, this to me is not necessarily Sony's way of trying to directly compete with Nintendo Switch 2. Like, we want to stop people who are going to buy the Switch 2, right? For the exclusives. We want to stop them from doing that, and we want them to buy our handheld instead. This to me is more like it's Sony covering their bases, where if Sony offers a PlayStation 6, very powerful, capable machine, next-gen console, but, there's no portability to it. And they have the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, same thing, powerful, capable machines, but no portability. And then you have the Nintendo Switch 2, which it has the portability, it has the third-party support, and it has the exclusives. I think Sony is going to feel like they have to provide something to fill in that gap. Where, listen, we're not necessarily trying to stop you from buying a Switch 2, but we want to have something there that if you are somebody who, let's say you buy the Switch 2, like here's a good example. Let's say you buy the Switch 2 for some Nintendo exclusives. And maybe you do buy a couple of third-party games, but these third-party games are like not running great. These third-party games are not running great because the Switch, I mean, they're running like okay. They're running well enough, but they're like 30 FPS. The resolutions are not that high. And overall, they're just, it's just a bit underwhelming, but it's a huge improvement from the Switch 1. I think what Sony would try to do with this handheld PlayStation, because the thing is, if it's going to be a handheld PS5, it's going to be more expensive than the Switch 2. Like, that's just, at least I'm assuming it should be, right? It's going to be a portable PS5. Like, it's going to be able to run PS5 games, like all of them, or 95% of them. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be premium. It's going to be more expensive than the Nintendo Switch 2. I think basically what Sony's going to try to do is offer a handheld, a premium handheld that if you want to have, if you already have a PlayStation library and, you're interested in a portable form factor, here's the console for you. And you get PS5 titles as well. So that's kind of my read on this. I think that's what Sony's trying to go for. And I can understand why they would be a little bit hesitant on this one, Jerome, again, with another super chat, says, that sounds like a digital console. The Switch 2 will still have physical games. WTF. I didn't think about that. Yeah. I didn't even consider that, actually, now that you mention it, Jerome. I didn't consider that it would be digital only. Yeah, I don't know, man. See, that is but then again, like the PS5 Pro is being sold as an all digital console. Well, not all digital, but like, you have to pay for the disc drive. Yeah, I don't know. That could definitely, I think, deter some people. Although, I don't know, it could be viewed the other way. Like, it could deter some people who like physical media from buying this handheld, but it could actually maybe encourage others who do have digital libraries. More people than not have digital libraries on PlayStation. There are a lot of people who still buy physical games and physical discs, of course, but pretty much everybody on PS5, or at least like 99% of people, have some kind of digital library. People might like the idea of, like, if I buy this handheld console, like, I have access to my entire digital library. Games I've been buying since the PS4. It's kind of like a double-edged sword there in some sense. And I will say, by the time this handheld comes out, this handheld is apparently it's in the early stages, so that means it's multiple years away. 2026, 2027, 2028. By that time, even more people are going to be embracing digital, for better or for worse, So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't know that people would be too upset about that. Pragmatic Cat, you're saying, I just want an OLED PS6 streaming handheld for $299. That would be an interesting thing for Sony to do. I could see Sony doing like a whole family of handheld devices. The PS Portal, the PS Portal 2 OLED or something. And then like the big hitter, the PlayStation. I don't know what to call it at that point. PlayStation handheld. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really roll off the tongue. But, the more premium handheld, that's, like it's basically like you're buying a handheld form factor PS5. And you say here streaming from the cloud and better internet. Well, see, that's what's interesting about the idea of this handheld launching at around the time the PlayStation 6 comes out or during that generation. The big question would be, would this handheld be able to play PlayStation 6 games? And I think the answer is yes, but only through cloud streaming. But then again, there's a big question we don't have the answer to, which is what are not our expectations, but what are we going to see when we see the first batch of PlayStation 6 games? Are we going to see a lot of cross-gen? Because if we see a lot of cross-gen, it's possible that games that can play on your PlayStation 6 will also be able to run on this handheld. Just maybe you have to settle for the PS5 version instead of the PlayStation 6 version. And Jerome Montgomery with another super chat here. Thank you, buddy. He says, half of the Switch fans have a physical library. If they want the Switch fans to switch from Nintendo, they will need physical. Well, see, here's my thing. I'm telling you, Jerome, I do not think Sony is trying to, I don't think Sony's trying to spearhead the Switch. I think they're just trying to, because the one thing that's interesting about this write-up in this article is that the source did tell Bloomberg, they told Bloomberg that Sony might not release this. They just might not release it. And that would be a very interesting way for Sony to go about it. I don't know that I would agree with it. I listed those reasons earlier. I don't know that I would agree with it because I just feel like it would be a mistake to not have an option. Everybody else has a portable option, but you? Well, we have the Portal. It's yeah, but that's old now. There's nothing new. There's nothing else. I think that it would be a mistake, but what I think that reveals is that Sony is worried about, because think about it. You release a PlayStation 6 and then you release a portable PlayStation 5, like a handheld PS5. Is it possible that you're going to basically make people who would have otherwise bought the PS6 instead decide, actually, I want this new cool handheld instead? I'm not saying that's bad for Sony necessarily, because you're still buying their product, but it does in a way kind of detract somewhat from their usual mission statement, which is it's about, moving on to the next gen. And by putting out a handheld that focuses on playing PS5 games, right? PS5 games and PS4 games, and not necessarily PS6 games, that's kind of sending the opposite message. So there's a bit of conflict there, potentially, with the messaging around the next generation PlayStation console. And I think that that's why Sony might be hesitant here. But I think what it reveals is that Sony hasn't decided what they want their messaging for the PlayStation 6 to be. Do they want it to be, it's a new generation, all aboard? Or do they want it to be the opposite, where it's it is a new generation of console, but it's kind of okay if you don't buy it immediately, because we're still going to be making PS5 games, and we got a PlayStation 5 portable, and we got a Pro, and it's cool. You'll get better looking and playing games on the PS6. So in other words, Sony has to decide if they're going to market the PS6 as a more incremental console, or a true, we are ushering in the next generation. And the reason why I think they're struggling to decide whether or not they want to go through with this type of handheld is less about factoring in Nintendo, more about factoring in their own messaging and how this could, conflict with that. That's my take on it anyway. I could be wrong, of course. I mean, we only have so much information to work with. But yeah, I mean, if you're a PlayStation player where 99% of your games are physical, and then Sony comes out with a digital only handheld that's, basically a portable PS5, it's not really going to be much use to you, It's not to say that you couldn't buy it and still enjoy it, but you're you're going to have to face the reality that so all those games you bought, yeah, you can't play that on here. Maybe Sony could do something. This would, I think, risk overcomplicating things, but think about this. Maybe Sony could do something where if you register, if you register this PlayStation handheld to your PS5, and then you take your disc, right? Let's say, I don't know, The Last of Us Part 1. You have it physically. You take your Last of Us Part 1 disc, you put it in the PS5, and it basically like unlocks the digital version for you. See, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound like Sony. Yeah, no, I don't think Sony's going to do that. Scratch that. They're not going to do that. They're like, why don't you just double dip? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking like maybe Sony is only willing to do that for people who buy the handheld. Like you have to register the handheld and confirm that you've bought it. And if you do that, it will allow you to convert your physical. That's I like want to imagine that being a scenario, but the more I think about it and the more I kind of talk about it out loud, it's like, that's not happening. Get the digital version for $10 extra. I mean, yeah, that sounds more like Sony. I could see them doing something like that, which, this is where physical media, it does get a little bit more complicated when you're talking about creating these kind of ecosystems across this one unified ecosystem across hardware. It does reveal the strength of digital, but at the same time, like, there are a lot of people, again, who they have a whole collection of physical games. Wabu Dude, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, buddy. You're saying, as a fan of physical games, I would definitely get a PlayStation handheld. I play most JRPGs and PlayStation classics on my Portal, but streaming lag is frustrating. Native play would be a game changer. Well, there you go, man. I feel like you're definitely far from the only one, Wabu Dude. I think, truthfully, the moment Sony releases a dedicated handheld, I think there will be people who are upset that it's not a Vita 2, that it doesn't do physical games, and that it's being treated more like a Steam Deck than anything. I still think it would sell very well. I think it would sell very, very well. I really hope Sony goes through with this, even as somebody who does still buy physical games, because it would just be, I think, really cool to see Sony re-embrace the handheld sector again. And I do think that there's enough data out there at this point in time that shows very clearly that this is a really viable market. Like, it's been a viable market, but I think it's more viable than ever before. And I think Sony would be risking a lot, truthfully, by not partaking in it. And I think the PlayStation Portal has ensured that Sony is going to partake in this space, no matter what. I think that's the reality. Like, I think if the Portal failed, I think Sony would definitely reconsider it and say, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we'll just scrap our plans. But it's interesting because this Bloomberg report also reveals that the PlayStation Portal was originally meant to be a native handheld. And that's super interesting to me because it's like, what was the play here? What was the play here? How much would that have cost if it came out and it could play games natively? Surely it couldn't play all PS5 games, right? Surely it couldn't do that. Maybe some. Maybe most PS4 games. I don't know. It's really interesting because it seems like as we get closer to 2025 and we get more and more reports of the Switch 2, this Xbox handheld, now Sony's jumping in. It's starting to seem more and more like a big part of next generation is going to be the battle of the handhelds, dude. And that, I have to admit, piques my interest because that's different. That's very different from what we've seen. Like we've seen that maybe in the past, like a long time ago with the PSP, right? And what Nintendo was doing. But the idea of like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all kind of in their own way going at it, where it's like, yeah, we had the home console, of course, but we also have a handheld. And Josh Z with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. You're saying, don't forget Nintendo's most successful consoles have all been handheld, even going as far back as the Game Boy. The Wii was really the only exception. I don't know how well PlayStation could compete here. That is true, Josh, and I think sometimes it's easy to forget that because, well, actually, maybe I guess it's not, because you're right. Like the GameCube, I think I view the GameCube as more successful than it really was. Like the GameCube was not that successful. The N64 was, I think, relatively, it was like okay. But yeah, you're right. The Wii was really the only home console that took off. The thing that I think about here, Josh, is the PlayStation Portable, the original PSP. 80 million units, dude. 80 million. Now, here's something that I was informed of that I wasn't aware of previously. A lot of people were saying that, or not a lot, but people have informed me that a huge chunk of those sales of the PlayStation Portable were people buying it for some kind of like homebrew stuff. Like that was like a huge reason why they moved so many PSP units. Obviously not all of them, certainly not nowhere near all of them, but I didn't really think of that and I didn't consider that. But I don't know, man. Here's how I see it. I think what's going to happen with PlayStation, starting with the PlayStation 6, I think we're going to see Sony. You know what? Let me ask you this. What if Sony makes the decision, and I'm not saying I expect this, but this is just a hypothetical. What if Sony makes a decision with the PlayStation 6 that the PS6 is now just part of a family of hardware? It's part of, like, it's its own separate thing, but like basically all games are going to be cross-gen. Like they're not, I guess what I'm trying to say is Sony actively makes it clear they're not moving on from the PS5. And what they're going to do is actually count PS6 sales with the PS5 going forward. And when they release this handheld, it's going to play PS5 games. They're going to count that too. I'm not saying that this would be the smartest thing to do. I'm not saying that. I think that there's a lot of risk and a lot of problems with this. But I don't know, man. It's so hard to determine like the best way to go about this. I would not want to be an engineer, not an engineer, a marketer at Sony right now. There's a reason why Jim Ryan retired, right? He's like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this, bro. Like I already dealt with this enough. Do we believe in generations anymore? Well, that's the whole thing, man. Look at the response to the PS5 Pro. And look at not the Pro. All right, I want to make something clear. It's not just the Pro. Look at the way the market is beginning to respond to better hardware, more cutting-edge hardware, more expensive hardware. Look at the way the market is beginning to respond. The market seemingly is beginning to kind of reveal that they're not necessarily as interested anymore. And it's hard to blame the market because it's like the diminishing returns are very much in play. So this is why I think whoever is the head of marketing at PlayStation and whoever has to figure out how are we going to thread this needle, they have such a difficult task in front of them, dude. Like, I do not envy that person because they're truly between a rock and a hard place where it's like if you go all in where it's like next gen, we do believe in generations. Are you going to do exclusives? Well, no. Okay. So how do you market that? Because I'll tell you right now, like I said, you look at the way Sony approached the PS5. Sony was not out here shouting from the rooftops that Horizon's going to be on PS4, that Miles Morales is going to be on PS4, that God of War is going to be on PS4. They were not shouting that. I'm not saying they actively like lied to you, but they were definitely not trying to put any focus on it. And perfect image. I'm sorry, man. I don't know why I keep missing your super chats. They just kind of fall through the cracks there. I'm sorry. Perfect image. You're saying, don't worry, Sony owns CD manufacturing. That's true, man, but that doesn't guarantee. That doesn't guarantee that they're gonna, ensure that their handheld is gonna be able to read discs. Like, I don't know. I don't imagine Sony shipping a. I don't imagine Sony shipping a handheld with a disk drive. That would be interesting. Sounds kind of nightmarish. Garrett, you're saying Sony's not going to drastically change strategy like you're saying. I think you're right. I don't see that happening because I lean more towards I think Sony's got one more in them. You know what I mean? I think that like I got one more in me, where it's like we got one more generation where we are going to go full steam ahead. And what I could see end up happening, and maybe this is the simple answer here. Maybe the simple answer here is Sony's going to go full steam ahead with the PlayStation 6 next generation. They're going to establish that, right? They're going to plant their flag and make it clear. This is not a cross-gen thing. This is not a mid-step. This is a next generation, a new generation. And then they will reveal this handheld. And this handheld is going to be the second iteration of PlayStation Portal. And the difference between what this handheld does and what the Portal does is simple. PS4, PS5 games, you could play natively. PlayStation 6 games, you stream. So, in other words, this handheld will be Sony's solution to a portable PlayStation that can accompany the PlayStation 6 in the same exact way that the PlayStation Portal is the answer for a portable PlayStation 5 experience right now. That's what I'm thinking. Stephen Leon coming in with a $50 super chat once again. Steven's been dropping these $50 super chats lately. He says, hey, one more for you and the family. Have good dinner on us. Well, thank you so much for that, Steven. That's very kind of you, bro. You've been out here showing some very strong support for me, the family, the cats, the community, and the channel, and I very much appreciate that, man. So shout out to Stephen Leon dropping a $50 super chat. He wants me to eat good, man. He wants me to eat good. Good stuff, bro. I feel like I got to give Steven a soundbite for that, Which soundbite? Good old Jim.
Enough from me. We're going to have the games start talking.
They're going to bring Jim back, bro, for the PlayStation 6. They're going to bring him back for one day just to record that line again, re-record it. Perfect image, you're saying PlayStation 6 physical, Portal 2.0, play all extra and premium. Well, we're seeing them testing everything out now. I think everything we're seeing from Sony is basically a test, a beta test, if you will, for things they're planning for the next generation with the PlayStation 6. Steven says, I'm out. Have a great day, brothers and sisters. Anytime. Wish I could do this for all of you, but I'm no Elon. That's very kind of you, Steven. Yeah, you're a very generous individual, and we appreciate what you could do for us. We appreciate it, bro. B Flesher, you're saying MBG or cross-gen. Oh, hold on. Oh, I lost you. Your cross-gen idea would be the smartest because that means it will likely run PlayStation 6 games natively like the PS5 will. I mean, that's kind of the whole situation right now, right? Where what All right, let me take a step back. Here's something that I think we have to acknowledge. I think Sony learned a lot with the cross-gen experience from PS5 and PS4. Their games being cross-gen. I think they learned a lot. And Steven Leon comes in. Bro, Steven, he's still giving. He's still giving to the channel and to the community. He drops 10 memberships. And he says, okay, now I'm out. Well, Steven, thank you for the parting gift, man. You definitely didn't have to do that, but I really do appreciate that, bro. That means a lot. That means a lot. So 10 memberships gifted by Steven. Although, I'd see, hold on. This is kind of weird. Yeah. What's going on here? The gifts have not popped yet. This is a first. Either it's extremely delayed or extremely glitched. They take a minute sometimes. Yeah, let's see what happens. Because they didn't distribute to my counter yet either. It's a bug. No, the card wasn't denied. The card wasn't denied. If the card was denied, the gifts wouldn't show up at all. Like, it wouldn't let them post. It's been happening for months now. This is the first time I'm seeing this. Well, let me go check something before we continue our conversation. I want to go check my members and see if it can tell me whether or not they were actually distributed and they're just not showing. Give me just a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there we go. Okay. It went through. Yeah, that was the most delayed I've ever seen. All right, it's all good, Steven. I wasn't going to move on until I figured out what... I don't like the YouTube glitches like this sometimes, man. Stresses me out. The 10 memberships did get distributed, which is good to see. It was just a little bit delayed. So, again, Steven, thank you so much for the support. It actually says we're at 11 members on the day. So I don't know what's going on there, but all right, let me add that to the member goal and we'll continue our conversation. Just hang tight, guys. Yeah, like I said, consider dropping some membership gifts if it's within your means, if you want to help support. We're striving for 50 today, okay? If we hit 50, we're at 11. That's what it says on my end. If we hit 50, we will do another morning with the missus tomorrow, okay? It's not a requirement, okay? Like, if we don't hit 50, I'm not saying we're not doing a morning with the missus. I'm just saying it'll happen much sooner. We'll expedite it. We'll do it tomorrow morning. Someone early in the stream, someone re-upped early in the stream. Did they? Did it not show me? Oh, yeah. YouTube's being pretty glitchy today. I'm not going to lie. Well, anyway. All right. Let's continue with our conversation. Sorry for getting sidetracked there. So what I was saying is that it seems to me like Sony learned a lot Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that awkward silence. I got very confused. I heard something outside, and I was very confused at what I was hearing. But then I figured out what it was, so we're all good. Everything's good. Everything's good. RPG88 comes in and drops a single membership gift. RPG88, thank you so much, my friend. You're saying you heard that too?
Appreciate it.
Dude, it's like earlier today was almost like freezing temperatures outside. It was almost like 32 degrees. I swear I heard a lawnmower somewhere. I'm like, what? Thank you, RPG88. Yeah, keep in mind, guys, you can always drop single membership gifts. I'll add that to the counter. What I'm trying to say, I feel like I keep getting distracted here. What I'm trying to say is that I think Sony learned a lot from the situation that happened early on in the generation with the PS4 and the PS5, where they were basically forced to do cross-gen. And no one can really determine whether or not they did it because they felt like they have to, or they had to, or if they did it because they wanted to. I'm going to say they probably felt like they had to. I think if Sony didn't have a supply shortage and the pandemic didn't happen, I think God of War would have been exclusive to PS5. I think Horizon maybe also would have been exclusive to PS5. GT7 was supposed to be exclusive to PS5, but at the last minute, Sony decided, actually, never mind. And I think that they had this fear that they were going to end up not selling enough copies, because if the game is attached to the system that they're trying to sell, but they don't have enough systems to sell, then not only are your console sales hurting, but now you're actively hurting your own game sales. So they went cross-gen, and I think what they learned from this, from what I can tell, is that, dude, even though they did cross-gen, most people still bought it on PS5. Most people still bought it on PS5. And I think that's a pretty important thing to kind of keep in mind when we would get the data. I think there was like this expectation that way more people were going to be buying games like Miles Morales and Forbidden West and Ragnarok and GT7 on PS4. But the reality was, like, they were selling some. Yeah, there were some units selling on the PS4, but generally speaking, anybody who was interested in these games, they were either buying it on PS5 or waiting till they got a PS5 and then buying it. And I think that that's just, if I'm Sony, that makes me think, like, how important is cross-gen for us with our games, really? Because the data kind of tells us that it's not that putting them on PS4 didn't do anything at all. It's just it didn't really matter that much. Oh my God. Now YouTube is frustrating me today, man. Now my chat's glitched. Let me see if I can fix it. It's just completely glitched. All right, there we go. I had to refresh the page. Sorry about that. They were probably running the gas for their mower for the winter. Oh, yeah, true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's actually much more likely. That's much more likely. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I guess I just thought I guess I wanted to believe that somebody was out there mowing their lawn in freezing cold weather, just because like the idea of it was funny. But yeah, that's absolutely what it was. Titus, you're saying it will be cross-gen from now on. Sony's people understand consumer demand has collapsed. Many Americans, I think 40%, don't even have $500 in the bank, period. Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. I feel like the PS5 generation has been all about the premium experience, or at least that's the angle that Sony's taken, where it's like, hey, we have the premium home console, $500. We're going to have the even more premium console, the mid-gen refresh, the PS5 Pro. We're going to have $200 earbuds. We're going to have the $200 DualSense Edge. We're going to have the $200 PS Portal, and just seems like Sony went all in with this kind of premium thing. And I think it worked well, and I think that still will work for them. Like, they're not going to walk away from that anytime soon, because there are plenty of people who still are going to buy those things, right, and still can afford to buy those things, even as consumer demand as you say, may have collapsed somewhat. I think it's just, yeah, it is kind of reaching that point where if things don't change very quickly on the consumer side and economically speaking, the demand is going to drop even more, right, as we go into 2025, 2026 and beyond. And it's going to be, I think, important for Sony to absolutely keep that in mind when they approach the next generation, because if they were to approach the next generation with just a kind of singular mindset of, again, next gen, premium, all in, their sales potential might be very limited at that point. And they'll be doing that at a time when, I mean, the Switch 2 is going to be more expensive than the Switch, but it's still going to be, I think, like more affordable than even a PS5. I think it's going to be like $400. I think that's the last we heard of the Switch 2. So that's still going to be relatively affordable. But then you're going to have Microsoft, and we see what Microsoft is doing. And Microsoft, they're all about bringing it to you. You know, if you got a Steam Deck, that's an Xbox. You know, we know their approach now. If you got a Fire Stick, that's an Xbox. So Sony is not there yet, potentially, but I get the feeling Sony might try to get the best of both worlds here. Josh, you're saying I think it would matter now. PS4 is quite slower than PS5. Well, that's the thing. I mean, at some point, the PS4 is going to have to be left behind. And maybe we'll just see a bit of a repeat of this generation where by the time the PlayStation 6 comes out, you know, everybody will have fully moved on from the PS4. And so now it's PS6 and PS5. I mean, because the way it's been this entire generation is it's PS5 and PS4. So that to me seems like the most likely outcome here. And I still don't know what Sony wants to do. Because, you know, Titus, you bring up the lack of consumer demand. I mean, I feel like the Switch, when we look at Nintendo's approach, it does prove that the consumer demand is still there. Well, and again, I mean, 2024 has been the Switch 2, I think, is something Sony will be paying very close attention to. The reason why I say this is because you can't compare the PS5 to the Switch. You certainly will not be able to compare the PlayStation 6 to the Switch 2. They are two different products, but the one thing they do have in common is their hardware that plays video games. And the difference there are going to be two main differences between these pieces of hardware. One is going to offer portability and true exclusivity. The other is not going to offer portability and presumably will not have true exclusivity anymore, because that seems to be something that Sony basically stopped this generation. What's interesting about the Nintendo side of things is, let me ask you, what do you think is the greatest selling point for Nintendo to reach the heights that they did with the Switch? Would you say it's exclusivity? True exclusivity, or would you say it's the portable form factor? If you say it's both, what would that split look like? A 50-50 split? An 80-20 split? A 70-30 split? Unico, you're saying exclusives. Benjamin says exclusives. Ms. Biz says price. The price is important too. It is cheaper. So not only is it cheaper, it does have true exclusivity and portability. It appeals to families and children. The reason why I'm saying that I think Sony is going to be paying very close attention to the Switch 2 is because I think one of the realizations that everybody, including Sony, might end up having, depending on how things play out, is that Nintendo might fare the best going forward. Like, I think you might start to see both Sony and Microsoft in some ways struggle. I think Sony might start to struggle because it really hinges, like what we said, on the consumer side and demand. And right now, it's not looking great. It's not to say that Sony's in a bad place. They're not in a bad place. But in the next year or two, if the economy kind of either stays the way it is or somehow gets worse and things become even more expensive and less affordable. If this continues to happen, Sony's not going to be able to just rely on the whole, like, you know, premium, like we're the best experience. I mean, they can if they want, but they're not going to find growth that way. In the midst of all that, you might see like you're probably going to see Nintendo. They're over here with a $400 underpowered Switch 2 that's still getting solid third-party support. People are flocking to it. They got true exclusives. You could hook it up to your TV. Like, they basically, what I'm saying is Nintendo's going to check all the boxes except one. They're going to check all the boxes except one box, maybe two. But the one box they're definitely not going to check off is the premium product. You know what I mean? You're not going to Switch 2 for the premium experience. They know that. And they're consciously not checking that box off. The second thing is maybe more mature exclusives. I don't know. I don't know that that I would count that. People see that differently. Like, I guess I'm just saying I don't anticipate that you're going to get like a Last of Us like game from a Nintendo first party. You know what I mean? That's my assumption anyway. But they're definitely not checking off the premium box. And because of that, I think that might be like the biggest difference maker for them. If it's true that the next 3, 4, or 5, however many years are going to get pretty tough economically for people, and you know it's already tough, and it's only going to get tougher. If that's true, Nintendo might thrive, dude. I mean, they might thrive more so than people were expecting, and that's where I just think like Sony has to, I think, be very. I'm sure they are. They got to be very aware of this while planning for next gen, because when we talk about this idea of a native handheld that can play PS5 games, like one of the first things I think is, man, that sounds expensive. Are people going to be interested in a really expensive handheld like that from Sony? I mean, I'm sure there is an audience, yeah. Like, I know that for sure that it would sell a certain amount just to people who are like, yeah, I want that no matter what. But I don't know, like when it comes to mass market appeal, when it comes to appealing to new players, like getting new people in, I don't know. I don't know if it would. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, man. They're already thriving and leading the charge. It seems to me that a lot of these companies, I think they all believe they have some kind of idea, like some kind of general idea, but it does, I don't know, I get this feeling that there's a fair amount of uncertainty in the air, generally speaking. There's a fair amount of uncertainty. And I think basically what we're going to end up seeing in the next 3 to 4 years is there's going to be winners and losers. And I'm not saying the outcome of who's going to win and who's going to lose is going to be surprising, but you know, there's always losers, because there's always companies that end up making just the worst possible decisions during times where it's like, you obviously shouldn't make that decision. And Sony is susceptible, just like all the other companies, truly. Josh, you're saying, but honestly, MBG, I've seen some PS3 game cutscenes and they look like the PS4 and 5 in the engine. All the money being wasted on graphics is crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the Sony risk, right? Part of the Sony risk is the pursuit of aggressively chasing cutting edge graphics, making games look unbelievably good. And it's worked for Sony. Like, that's the thing. I think the cost has been justified because it's worked for them. But I just wonder, when do we reach a point where it doesn't work for them anymore? What I mean is, it's not that people aren't impressed. It's not that people aren't like, oh my God, that looks insane. But it's more along the lines of, so how much did this cost? Because this costs like double the amount that the previous game did. And the new game definitely looks better, but like not that much better. Like that's when okay, well, did we sell like double the amount of copies? No, you sold about the same. See, that's where somebody at Sony's going to have to get a hold of things, where it's like, listen, if the cost, if the amount of money that you need to dump into the graphical side of it is doubling or tripling, and the sales results are not doubling or tripling, then you just can't. Like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. One of the things I think this came from Colin Moriarty. I think he said it pretty passingly, but he was saying that he knows of games at PlayStation that are in development right now that I think it was in regards to the whole Concord $400 million situation. He was saying that there are games in development at PlayStation right now that are more expensive than that. And that's where it's like, when I think of that, any chance that I thought there may have been of like Sony going back and making games exclusive to the PlayStation 6, not happening. That's not happening. It can't. It just can't. Like, it's not justified. I'm not saying they're gonna like go multi-platform and kind of pull a Microsoft here. I'm not saying they're gonna do that, but it's just they cannot turn back to that strategy, because a game that costs more than $400 million, like you just can't do that. I mean, you can at your own risk, but good luck trying to break even. If anything, hearing that there are game budgets internally at Sony right now that are more expensive than that, makes me think that there are going to be some announcements being made about their approach in the coming years with some of these games, that some people are going to be like, whoa, like, what? No way. Who could have seen this coming? You already know what's going to happen. But I think Sony's afraid, man. I think Sony's afraid to not give their studios these budgets. I think Sony's afraid to not have that graphical prowess. I think Sony's afraid to take a step back, because, again, it's worked for them. And so I don't necessarily fault Sony for thinking, it's not that it can't still work for us. It's just we need to cast a wider net. Like we know that this can be appealing to a bigger audience, but and that's kind of what's putting Sony in this awkward predicament. At least it seems awkward based off of the way people talk about it, where it's like, so, all right, if you're not willing to pull back on the graphical fidelity, and you're still making these massive budget games, and the price is just continuing to balloon, when it comes to the development costs, and they're taking longer than ever to develop. So you're still trying to sell a console. The console's still a priority. What are you going to do? I think that's why we're seeing them make all these decisions, where it's like, well, let's get more comfortable on PC. Let's enable cloud gaming on the portal through PlayStation Plus Premium. Let's throw Lego Horizon on the Switch. I think that let's put Spider-Man on PC 1 year later. I think they're doing this stuff because they really, yeah, like I think they know it's going to crash eventually. If there isn't a ceiling, if they don't create that ceiling, if they're not willing to create that ceiling for themselves, then the crash is inevitable. And the only other way to avoid that crash is if you're not going to create the ceiling, because creating that ceiling means potentially stunting growth, which is obviously why they don't want to do that, or regressing. That's the implication anyway. It's not a guarantee. Nintendo's proof of that. But it's not a guarantee, just the implication. And there's a risk involved with creating your own ceiling, especially when you've conditioned people to not expect that. That's kind of where people talk about Nintendo getting a pass, and it's like, it's not necessarily that Nintendo gets a pass. It's more that Nintendo just made it clear from day one, like, yeah, we're not doing that shit, so don't expect it. And that's what's interesting when you look at Sony. They're like, no, we are doing that shit, so expect it. So it's definitely not going to work for Sony very well if they're like, actually, don't expect that shit anymore. People are going to be upset. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, that's why I came to PlayStation. So it's like the logic is there, is what I'm trying to say. The logic as to why Sony is going in the direction they are, it makes sense. It all adds up. But my best guess is that what Sony is likely going to attempt to do is what Microsoft is struggling to do right now. Microsoft, they went full tilt in approaching this struggle this way, where it's like, listen, guys, we need more money. We need it now, and we're not going to wait. And we're pretty sure the best way to do this, to not just get more money and more revenue, but to grow, is to just cast a wider net. So we're going to cast the widest possible net at one time. And we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. We're going to put Game Pass everywhere. We're going to put Xbox everywhere. And we're even going to start putting some games on PlayStation. And we're going to have a marketing campaign that says this is an Xbox, even though it's not an Xbox. They went full tilt. And I think because of that, it's very clear that, like, well, your hardware is going to tank, dude. And that's exactly what's happening. And I want to preface this because I know I get some feedback from some Xbox players who are like, well, they don't care about console sales anymore, so it's not fair to say that. No, I'm not saying this in a console warrior way where it's like their console sales are tanking because they suck. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the logic. It's like, if they're doing this, and that, what's the cost associated? The cost is they probably gave up the console race. So it's just totally a complimentary thing. It doesn't really matter for them anymore. That's all I'm trying to say. When you look at Sony, they're in this position where, like, they want to cast a wider net. They want to have that growth. But they also have a console that's selling just as well as the PS4 and is on track to likely sell, 100 million, another 100 million console seller. They definitely don't want to cannibalize that. They don't want their external growth that they achieve to come at the expense of a shrinking console market that they are responsible for shrinking. Does that make sense? So because of this, I think what Sony's going to do, and this is where this handheld kind of falls into the conversation here, I think what Sony's going to do, I'm not saying they'll succeed, they're going to try to get the best of both worlds with the next generation. They're going to try to market the PlayStation 6 and their overall strategy around the PlayStation brand. They're going to try to basically, I think, carve out two distinct marketing strategies. And they're going to not necessarily infuse them together and tether them together, but they will be tethered together. Like, they're not going to call out to the fact that they're tethered together. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. I guess what I'm trying to say is, to whereas Microsoft is like, you know what? Let's just call everything an Xbox and get it over with. That's Microsoft showing you, you see what we're doing here? We're taking the console and we're taking the brand and we're taking the ecosystem and we're just putting it all together. It's just one thing now. Okay? That's what it is. Sony doesn't want to do that, but they want to reach new people. So because of that, I think they're going to try to they're going to try to speak to people differently. It's going to be hard for them to do this. I don't know. This is going to take some kind of expert marketer to figure this out, which I'm not. I don't know how you do that. I think it's possible. I think it can be done. But I think it's like Sony's going to try to turn to the core console audience and be like, we got you. Like, we're all in with the PS6 next gen. Check out these amazing games. We're going to have a whole lineup of accessories. It's going to be awesome. And once they feel comfortable that, like, all right, I think we sold them on this, they believe in it. Not to say they're lying or anything, but I don't know. Maybe this sounds like a repeat of how some people view the launch of the PS5. I don't view it that way, though. But they're gonna speak to them, and then at the same time, like, it's not gonna be immediate. Well, it might be immediately after. They're then just gonna turn to the wider market and be like, yeah, you're gonna get some stuff too. Like, we're coming in. We're coming to you. Like, that's, I don't know, man. That's I feel like that's kind of what Sony's gonna do. Where it's like, I mean, listen, everything I just described, you could make the argument that Sony's already kind of been doing this, right? Sony's already kind of been doing this. Spider-Man 2, big PS5 console exclusive. It's going to be huge. You're going to want to buy a PS5 for it. Don't miss it. 1 year later, all right, it's going to PC now. I'm not saying there's a problem with that. I'm just saying, like, I think that's it. I think you're going to see Sony basically do that, but way more aggressively and outwardly and consistently with the PlayStation 6 generation. And I think this handheld is going to kind of play a role in that. Amorous RM, you're saying, you are right. I'm on PC now and sold my Xbox, and now I play both. Amazing game, The Last of Us. Yeah, The Last of Us is amazing, dude. I still like the first one way more than the second. And yeah, more and more people are doing that. People are still buying consoles. You know, I think that there are frequently arguments, you know, is the console space dying? Is PC taking over? It's like, I don't think either. I think they're both just coexisting and they're both doing fine. But I do think that we may be entering a phase in gaming history, right? Like, we're going to look back at like the 2020s. And I think we're entering a phase where it is truly going to become more about like these companies kind of realizing that we need to start casting a wider net and speaking to more people and getting more people in. I'm telling you, man, I think Sony, they're not terrified, because if they were terrified, they wouldn't be doing it at all. But Sony did answer the question at their last earnings. Hey, is releasing your games on PC cannibalizing sales? Is it cannibalizing console sales? And the response Sony gave was, no, we're not seeing that right now. So, like, the question I would ask Sony, even though they probably wouldn't give me an answer, like if I was a investor that had the chance to ask a question, I would ask, if you did see that, what would you do? Like, if in the next year or two you start to see that, what would you do? That's the question I would love to get an answer to, because I'll tell you this, man, I don't think Sony can really push the envelope any further without still, like, I think they're just at the cusp, right? Where if you go any further, I'm pretty sure you're going to start cannibalizing a little bit. Like, I'm pretty sure if you go beyond releasing like Spider-Man 2 a year later on PC, but maybe let's say like Death Stranding 2 goes day one on PC, you're setting a new precedent. I think that's when you might start to lose some people, and you might start to see your console sales. Again, I think most people who do want console are going to get it, but you might actually struggle to get to 100 million as easily this time. So I think it's a matter of Sony. I think Sony's trying to find that point where it's like, how far can we take it before it starts to negatively impact our current main strategy, you know, that's making us the most amount of money. But yeah, this is what they got to do, man. Josh, you're saying, why should kids give a crap about consoles when they don't have the attention span to play games for long periods of time? Yeah, I saw somebody mention that it's that kids these days, they don't really care about consoles. And I guess I don't know if there's truth to that. I would believe, like, I believe that. I don't know if there's like a lot of data out there to indicate that. Maybe there is, but yeah, I mean, times have changed beyond just, I would say, people, you know, it's not even just about like, do you want to play on console or PC? I think that the culture and the society, we live in a society. Society itself, I would say, has changed to where like there's just a different expectation now with everything. And a lot of it has been transformed into convenience and ease of use, ease of access. And because of this, a lot of the content, a lot of what we see is so watered down, if not watered down, just so like, listen, man, my son, he uses YouTube, and sometimes he like I just see some of the stuff he stumbles across, and I like watch some of these videos, and I'm not like he's a young kid, you know, he doesn't know, and if he's watching something that seems just totally like brain rot or inappropriate, I just take it off and block the channel or whatever. But I see like these videos where I'm just like, what is happening? What even is this? This like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it's something that feels like it could potentially warp your brain if you watch it long enough, because it's so strange, and the level of stimuli is so high, and I'm just like and I like investigated a little bit further, and I realized like this is everywhere, and it's just scary that like this is the future, man. Like this is what kids are watching. Not all kids, but this is the shit that's being made. And it's just, you know, the people who are making this type of content are making it because they're making ad revenue off of just kids that they don't know what's good and what's not. And they're just stumbling across it. And it's like super, it's just like way overstimulated. It's like overstimulating the child. And I think about that, and I think about how like, man, how is this going to impact the future generations, and like in some negative ways? Like this can't be good. Like this just can't be good, dude. I don't know. I'm not trying to go down that road and get too doomer about it, but you bring up the idea of like kids not really being interested in consoles anymore, and it's like when it comes to a lot of the stuff I see, I don't know. And maybe this is just me getting older, right? But like, I don't know what kids are into these days. Like, I don't understand it. And even if I try to understand it, it's like, I still can't figure this out. I'm like, bro, what is the appeal here? Some of the weirdest stuff that just exists on YouTube and in other, you know, social media sites. But yeah, that's my hope too, that consoles won't actually go anywhere. Maybe they'll become more niche. Okay, you're saying MBG PlayStation is riding the millennial cultural momentum it accrued the past 30 years, a valuable currency they are rapidly spending and are looking to pivot for the next 30 in a vastly changed gaming landscape. I mean, I'll be honest with you, okay, I feel like I believe that. I mean, that's why I feel like Sony there is clearly some type of transition going on, but I think that they do believe they can kind of just ride both waves at the same time. You know, like they got two surfboards, one leg on each board, and they're riding the wave. You know, that's such a weird analogy. Sorry to give you guys that visual. It's like Hiroki Totoki out there, you know, riding that wave. Or Herman Holst. Nobody can predict the past 5 years right now. Too many changes coming. MBG, it's the FOMO and flexing Fortnite $20 skins. Dude, oh my God. You mentioned Fortnite. I saw... Oh, so funny, dude. I saw on PlayStation's official YouTube channel, they uploaded a trailer for Fortnite, and it was like Doja Cat versus one of the Fortnite characters or something. And I clicked on it just to check the comments. I'm like, I gotta check the comments, man. And they didn't disappoint. People were like, what is this? Like, people are like, what happened to gaming, bro? Like, Just so many comments of people being like, how did we get here, man? How did we get here? Like, what is happening? And I find myself asking that question too, where it's like, I did see that thumbnail in that trailer, and I'm like, bro, what? I've never even got into Fortnite, but even I was asking, like, what happened to Fortnite, man? And yeah, now they're selling shoes in the game, and everybody's like fighting for the shoes. I don't know. I guess this is what it feels like to get older, man. Like, I'm only 31, and I feel like I'm totally disconnected and not with it. But I also feel like I don't want to be with it, because I look at it and I'm just like, damn kids, ruining all the good stuff. Thank you, OK. OK comes in and re-ups his membership. Comes back to greatness awaits. I appreciate that support, man. Means a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That brings us up to 13 members on the day. Did it already count? Oh, hold on. I ruined it. I think it already counted it, but, But yeah, this idea that there's going to be some kind of shift, and Sony's kind of been, really relying on the audience that they've garnered over the last, 30 years, and that's kind of, running out. I do think it's true that it's running out in the sense that they know that they can't rely on the audience that's been there for the past 30 years. They can't rely on them forever. Sony does have to make changes to try to appeal, and that's their obligation, even as somebody where it's like, I would love Sony to just cater to me and, not do anything else. Even though I feel that way, I also understand that their business, PlayStation is the biggest segment, one of the biggest segments underneath Sony. They have an obligation to try to make sure they're doing what they can to appeal to the younger generations, because yeah, man, they have to make those kind of decisions where it's like, all right, this is going to be good for us for the next 10 years, maybe the next 20 years. But they really do have to think very long term about what about 30 years? What about 40 years? I mean, it's impossible to predict, but there is a section of the company that does have to kind of focus on making sure that they're not going to miss the next big thing and, be completely out of pocket 20 years from now, where it's like, your company died 20 years ago, bro. You just didn't know it. So, saying wait till you hit 50. Yeah, I can't wait. It's not our time anymore, says Josh. Well, I don't mean to make it sound, I don't want to make it sound all bad, because it's not all bad. A lot of the changes I think can be good too. It would be unfair to make it sound like a lot of the things that I'm getting aren't for me, because that's not true. There are many, many things that Sony is doing, that not even just Sony, but in gaming today, that are being done that are for me, that do interest me. I do notice as I get older that maybe it's becoming, I guess it fluctuates year in and year out, but there are some years where it feels like there's a lot less for me, whereas other years it feels like there's a lot more for me. And I'm not going to be shocked if, as time moves forward and as I get older, if it does start to kind of feel like, I'm reaching my 40s now and it really feels like there's a lot less out there for me. I would expect that. I would kind of feel like, yeah, I guess this is kind of normal. I'm sure that a lot of gamers in their 40s or 50s right now, or maybe even older, to an extent feel that way, where they look back at the golden age. To them, the golden age is, was certainly before the PS1 or the PS2 or something, to where it's like me, I don't know. I look back and I'm like, damn, the PS2 felt like the golden age, right? So, Navins, you're saying, MBG, why are movie theaters not out of business in the year 2024? You guys are all wrong. Well, see, I think, because you're right to point that out, it is interesting to think that movie theaters are still here. I think what's happening is things that that had their kind of like heyday or things that peaked, if you will. They don't just, if there's something culturally relevant enough, they don't disappear. I think that they may have carved out a permanent place, but it just might shrink. It's kind of like what Josh said about how like consoles aren't going to go anywhere. They're just going to probably become more niche over time. And I agree with that. And I think that like there's always going to be some type of audience and market for home video game consoles. I just think the convenience factor alone will ensure that. And I think even if you're talking about the far future where it's like the idea of having native hardware hooked up to your television is laughable, I think even then there will be some kind of like nostalgia factor to it. Or it could just be one of these things where it's like it's I don't know, like I don't know how to describe it. I know that there's a specific word to use right now, but I can't think of the word. It's not in my vocabulary right now. But just this idea that people will actually go out of their way to be like, I have a video game console in my living room, and it's like viewed as like, whoa, like that's so cool, like that's so different. And that's like far future thinking, but I think that video game consoles have kind of cemented themselves to a certain extent. They will always exist in some capacity. MBG PlayStation can rely on the children of the audience of the last 30 years. Yeah, true. We'll teach our kids how to play and what real games are. It's up to us. I mean, I would say to a certain extent, like, I mean, it's interesting because I think even like the younger generation of kids, they still seem to be pretty aware of the console space, mainly with the Switch and the PS5. I think Xbox is still there too. I think Xbox is still relevant to a degree, but it's interesting how like, I don't know. I came across this post the other day on Twitter where I think it was a basketball player. I don't know anything about basketball these days, and I don't know any of these players, but apparently there's like this famous basketball player who let this kid like buy anything he wanted in a store or something, and the kid picked out a PS5. And I think the basketball player, he didn't like scold him, but he was like, you got to make like better decisions, like you got to make a better future investment or whatever. But I thought that was interesting. I'm like, this is like a young, like, I think it was like a 6 or 7-year-old kid or an 8-year-old kid. And they picked a PS5. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like I guess there is still a level of relevance with the PlayStation console, with the youth out there, maybe. But then, he's probably just going to play Fortnite on it. So, Boss, can you come over here, dude? You're making me nervous. You're making me nervous, bro. You're making me nervous. All right. Man, so I guess we're still just on like the second. To be honest, I didn't really have a list of topics today. We were just kind of talking about this stuff. What the F? Did you think the PS5 was just for old heads? No. I definitely didn't think that. Like, I know that there are a lot of kids playing PS5. I guess I'm just saying it's like, it's just interesting to me and maybe somewhat telling that, it's like if you take a kid to just like an 8-year-old or 9-year-old kid into a store and you say you can buy anything you want from the store, like one item, but anything you want. And you're like, oh, I want a PS5. I'm like, that's interesting to me because that reminds me of like the PS2 days, Like I feel like that's what the PS2 days were like, where it's like everybody wanted a PS2, But there are probably plenty of kids that are like, I want the most expensive gaming PC or something. Or a phone, right? The PS5's for old heads, man. Guys, do me a favor. We are doing good on the likes front. We're almost at 175 likes, so you guys have really been helping the stream out. If you haven't already, take a moment, hit that like button. Let's see if we can bump it up to 200 likes. It's been helping the streams. I got to get better at, kind of reminding people to hit the like button because it does help. Remember the days when Nintendo was an umbrella term for a console? The good old days, you know? I mean... Oh, that's weird. Secret Levels Concord episode has a trailer and it feels really weird. Oh, no. They actually released the trailer? No way, bro. Why would they do that? Why? Okay. All right. Why would they release a trailer specifically for the Concord episode? Why would they do that? Black Ops 6 breaks Call of Duty launch records. Yo, hey. Let go. You make me nervous, boy. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has achieved unprecedented success, becoming the most played game in the franchise's history, with record numbers in players, hours played, and matches within the first 30 days. The game has seen significant engagement across PlayStation and Xbox platforms. Activision has celebrated this success by announcing special events, including a double XP event, the introduction of Prop Hunt mode. Oh, that's actually pretty fun. Prop Hunt mode is pretty cool. And the return of Stakeout 24/7 playlists. All this begins on Wednesday. Okay. There you go. Over 50% of Xbox Series players have played Call of Duty. Over 38% of PS5 players have played Call of Duty. You know what's weird? I was thinking about this. How come? And I just saw Lady K drop the membership gift as well. Lady K, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you dropping a single membership gift and keeping the member train going here. You're saying boss needs treats. Look at that face. Let's go. Well, yeah, just a quick reminder. There are two ways in which we can get the beast fed. Okay, we can hit 25 members. If we hit 25 members, we'll feed the beast. We are aiming for 20 super chats. We're at 8 super chats. They got to be teal or higher. If we get 20 teal or higher super chats, that's another way we can feed the beast. So there's 2 opportunities. We still have a little bit of time to get that done. But thank you, Lady K. That brings us up to 14 members on the day. I'm going to add that to the counter. But, it says that Call of Duty is like the most played game and whatnot. Every time when I'm on the PlayStation Store, when I scroll down, it says top games in your country, top 10 games in your country. Call of Duty is not on that list. And I don't know why. Like, it definitely should be on that list, but it's not on that list. Does anybody know what's going on here? It's really strange to me. Like, I'm pretty sure Call of Duty should be in the top 3 or 4, and it's just not there. I see the sports games. I see, like, Fortnite. Is it possible it's just somehow not in the top 10? Because it says 38% of PS5 players have played it. Like, I would find it hard to believe it's not in the top 10. Okay with a super chat says, oh, hold on. Says PlayStation is wary of their win being a Fyric. What is it? Dude, I don't know this word. I'll be honest. I got to look up the definition of this word. Okay, he's throwing words at me I don't even recognize. A victory that is not worth winning because so much is lost to achieve it. I don't even know how to pronounce this. A Fyric victory? Pyric? I don't know how do you pronounce this? Okay, he's throwing me a curveball here. But you're saying, so basically what you're saying is PlayStation is wary of their win being a victory that is not worth winning because so much is lost to achieve it. It's P, not F? Okay. Thank you for that, Smurf, for the win. I mean, I guess the way I'm interpreting what you're saying here is like the idea of Sony keeping the flag planted where it's been for the past like 4 or 5 generations of like console hardware, main focus on first party games and exclusives and third party games, right? They kind of have won this area to a degree, and they have an opportunity ahead of them to like really cement that victory. But I guess when you talk about it not being worth it because of what they're losing to achieve it, it's the loss of other audiences. It's the loss of like the wider market that somebody like Microsoft is absolutely going to tap into. Somebody like Nintendo is able to tap into naturally because they're just more family/kid friendly. Pyrrhic. Is that how you say it? Pyrrhic victory. Okay, I was saying it totally wrong then. Thank you for that, Spine. You're giving a whole breakdown of where. That's interesting. Yeah, I think it does make sense though to look at it this way, because I think that is kind of how Sony views it, where it's like, yeah, you can win in this area. You know, you started PlayStation to, you know, you wanted to break into the home console space. You wanted to break into this market. You did. You found great success. You've enjoyed great success for multiple generations, but gaming has grown. I mean, what's interesting is if you look back when the PlayStation 1 came out, you know, now that's going to be 30 years old, 1994, you compare it to, I mean, you look at like gaming then in culture, just generally speaking, and you compare it to where gaming is now in the year 2024, you know, I mean, it's grown, I think, beyond anybody's wildest expectations, even during like the PS2 generation, maybe even the PS3 generation, honestly. Like, I don't think anybody could have really predicted just how big gaming would become by this point. It's the biggest medium in the world, it seems like it. It's the biggest entertainment medium in the world, and it's so interesting when we look at something like GTA 6. We talk about it frequently, and GTA 6, I think it's a game that's representative of, I think, like, it kind of shows just how big gaming has gotten. You look back, like with the PS2, GTA 3, it was a huge game, you know, breakthrough game that kind of revolutionized the idea of like what an open world sandbox game could be. And then now here we are with GTA 6, and people are kind of, it's not even, I won't even say it's like tethered to the expectations of, it's just the fact that GTA 6 is going to have this appeal that, again, nobody, I think, could have ever predicted that a game, like a video game, could reach these heights ever. And I don't think anything can touch it. Movies can't touch it. Music can't touch it. It's interesting stuff, man. So it's understandable when you think of it, I think. When you think of the bigger picture, it becomes more understandable. Some of the decisions that are being made by not just Sony, but Microsoft, and to a small degree, Nintendo. I see you guys are still talking about the pronunciation of this word. You're saying it's like pyramid. Pyrrhic. Is that it? Did I get it right? Pyrrhic? Because, I mean, usually third time's the charm. Chris Brown, a member for 16 months. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for the, I noticed you dropped a tip on my video yesterday. Appreciate that, bud. You're saying, I love the Pro, but not being able to get Silent Hill 2 and recently Star Wars Outlaws having bad PSSR is frustrating. Is it Outlaws? Are you sure you're not talking about Jedi Survivor? Because I heard Outlaws is pretty good, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. You're saying having bad PSSR is frustrating. Having to Google before I buy is bad. Yeah, it hasn't. I would say the PS5 Pro launch has not been perfect. I don't want to say it hasn't been ideal because I feel like that would insinuate that there's, again, we kind of had this discussion a little bit yesterday that it's worse off than it really is. But yeah, I think it simply comes down to, really quick, Carlos says Outlaws and other games have shimmering / artifacts on the PS5 Pro. Yeah, I mean, it is disappointing, I would say, to an extent, to see that there are games that where PSSR is, again, it is the first iteration of it. It's been doing really good things for many games, but there's also a batch of games where the results are certainly less than ideal and just straight up bad. Where it's like, man, when you pay this much money for a console, you don't want to see that stuff, but it's kind of the nature of the beast, I would say. You know, there's it's not that Sony can't do anything about it. It's just that anytime a new technology like this comes out, there are going to be some growing pains. And again, I'm not saying that means you shouldn't be frustrated with it, because it's frustrating. It's just, I guess the hope is like these developers can figure this out, because I did see this. Like, I saw that apparently the reason for the shimmering effect in Silent Hill 2 was because of PSSR, and they removed it. Like, they removed PSSR and they're using TSR now instead. So hopefully it's not a sign of things to come where it's like developers are actually struggling to, I don't want to say that they're struggling. It's not the developer's fault. It's the technology, right? Like PSSR, it seems like sometimes what's going to happen is a developer is going to apply PSSR to a game and it's not going to produce the best results. You know, like to a degree where they're like, maybe we just shouldn't use this. But that's where we have to kind of see how Sony and Mark Cerny plan to iterate on this and how rapidly they plan to iterate on it, because they're taking the feedback in right now, man. And I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're talking to developers and they're trying to figure out like what they can do to, you know, yeah, Hellbound. I read that too. Apparently games with really low base resolutions or lower base resolutions, this is where it struggles. This is where it can kind of produce that shimmering effect and not ideal results. Which is, I was under the impression it was the opposite, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. I thought that it was the opposite, where PSSR's greatest strength was it could bring really low res games up very well. And I guess it's not to say that it can't, but in like most cases, it's not. Below the 1080p mark is the problem. PlayStation Pete, thank you for the $5 super chat. You're saying, MBG, I will be going away. You're saying, MBG, I will be going away my PS5 Pro to a friend in 4 years. If for some reason he's no longer around, I would give it to you. I'm not sure how to interpret this, PlayStation Pete. I'm assuming you're talking about, I don't know if you're talking about the regular PS5 Pro or the 30. I know you just got the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro. Like, I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, PlayStation Pete. You know? Like there's a layer to this that I feel like is kind of dark, but I'm not sure if I'm reading it wrong. And there's nothing dark about it. But PlayStation Pete, bro, I do appreciate you dropping a super chat. And I did see your picture, by the way. And you took a picture on Twitter and you tagged me of your 30th anniversary Pro, and looks good, man. Still wish I could have got one. I'm not gonna lie. That's one of those things where it's like, feels like the one that got away. But I saw you know what's weird is it seems like Sony did actually give some influencers free PS5 Pro 30th anniversaries editions. Could you imagine that, dude? I would have, maybe I'm wrong about it, but I was under the assumption that that's one of those products that they weren't going to give to influencers because they're so limited. So straight up, a batch of those 30th anniversary PS5 Pros were set aside to give to certain people. They should have made more. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I do kind of feel that way too. Like, feels like they really didn't make enough. But Chris, you're saying I don't mind PSSR having glitches, but you can't even turn it off. So now your game just looks like shit. Yeah, definitely problematic if a game is not benefiting from PSSR. Lone Wolf Gamer, you're saying, MBG, what are you going to do with your 30th anniversary Slim? Not entirely sure yet. Like, I have some ideas. Like, I don't want to just display it. I don't want to do that because if that's what I was going to do, I would have not bought it. I can't do that. You know, like, I know for some people, like collectors, they buy stuff and they want to just have it on display, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I couldn't do that. I feel like, especially if it's something pricey, like I want to get use out of it. You know, I want it to have practical use. So I'm thinking I might make it the living room PlayStation 5 and maybe bring the PS5 Pro into the room here potentially. I'm not sure how I want to configure it yet. I know Mrs. MBG she really is fond of the PS1 DualSense. She really likes it, and she's been wanting to use it. And I'm like, my precious, no. I'm like, you can't touch it. No, but I think that's why I'm gonna. Okay, wow. YouTube, I can't, dude. YouTube is. YouTube is stressing me. YouTube is really stressing me. The amount of times my studio today, my YouTube studio has glitched and malfunctioned. Unacceptable, dude. I'm going to be honest. Unacceptable. I don't know what's going wrong behind the scenes at YouTube right now. The only ones that are doing good PSSR are made by Sony first party. Is that true? I feel like that can't be true, right? Like, surely there are other developers, other games that are using it, third party, that have used it well, right? Leo Jimmy with a $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Leo. You're saying, MBG money. We are getting into the realm of PC. I have no care for PC. Performance and fidelity is a good stopping point. I don't want to fiddle with all these settings to make the game run right. Turn away from PC. Turn away. Run. Yeah, I've been seeing some people talk about that with the PS5 Pro, which is interesting, where they've been saying that it kind of seems like some developers, it's not, I don't know that people view it as they're taking the wrong approach, but like when you look at the way Mark Cerny presented the PS5 Pro, he's basically like, up until this point, we've had to choose between performance modes and fidelity modes. And so what the PS5 Pro aims to do is remove that choice and basically give you the best of both worlds. And what we end up seeing with a lot of games, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of like you're saying here, Leo, where there are 4 or 5 different options now, which, you know, look, I don't view that. I don't know that I fully agree with you here, Leo, where I don't view having 3 to 4 to 5 options this as the same as messing with PC configuration settings, because the last time I messed with PC configuration settings, it wasn't like overwhelming. It could be a little bit because there were some things I didn't quite know what I was looking. I'm like, what exactly is this? And I would kind of mess around with it and figure it out on the fly. But there was a lot, and you know, the only thing I was confused by is like which settings are best, right? And that's where I feel like choosing between 3, 4, 5 different settings, realistically, to be honest, if we're removing the base performance mode and the base fidelity mode, we're looking at 2 or 3 settings. I think that kind of is not that bad. You know, I don't think I don't think that makes the Pro like a PC, you know? But at the same time, I do understand where you're coming from, where it's like the whole idea of console gaming is simplicity. And it feels like as we are going further into, the PlayStation hardware, diving deeper with the PS5 Pro now, feels like it's starting to somewhat get away from that. And I get it. I get it. But I don't know. I think that as Sony continues to kind of have some offering on PC, I feel like it kind of makes sense for them to start to lean a little bit more into, again, like I don't want to say like the complexities of PC gaming, but really watered down versions of that, I guess you could say, for their premium console. But yeah, I know some people didn't agree with my take yesterday with the PS5 Pro when it comes to like the conversation around buyer's remorse, but like for me, it's just a matter of, I think we need to give it time. And I think it's okay if you bought the PS5 Pro and you're a bit disappointed right now. I think that's okay. If you bought the PS5 Pro and you're very happy with it, I think that's okay too. Right? I just think that everybody's feelings on it right now are going to be different because we've been seeing kind of results that are somewhat all over the place. You know what I mean? We've been seeing some really good results, some just fine results, and some bad results. And I think what that's going to do is it's going to polarize people and it's going to produce different opinions. But I just hope that we could get to a place at the PS5 Pro where it's producing consistent results, consistently good results. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a person who looks at that and says, well, that's BS. If you're paying $700, you should have consistently good results right now. Completely agree with you. But sometimes the reality of the situation, it is what it is, and that's it. King Sam, you're saying just got the platinum for Returnal. I didn't realize there was an Act 3 the first time around. On to the DLC next, which I never finished. Feed the Beast. King Sam, thank you so much, and congrats, dude. Returnal's not an easy platinum. It's not an easy platinum. That's one of the platinums I'm pretty proud of, I'll say. The most difficult part for me when platinuming Returnal by far was, and I've talked about this numerous times, the RNG glyphs. Bro, I think I dumped an extra 30 hours into that game trying to find one glyph. It almost broke me. I was getting really pissed off. But prior to that point, I loved the game. That was the only thing I didn't like about it, is that they made the collectible glyphs RNG, randomly generated. I'm like, that was a nightmare. But an amazing game. Housemarque made an amazing game. I can't wait to see what they do next. And yeah, man, enjoy the DLC. Feed the Beast. Well, guys, let me see where we're at. We're rapidly approaching the 2.5 hour mark on the stream. So we are at 11 super chats. So we are 9 super chats away and 11 members away. So if we can hit one of these goals before the stream ends, we will feed the beast before we depart. PlayStation Pete, you're saying MBGI meant I would give you my 30th. You would give me your 30th. Hold on. I would give my 30th to you if my friend isn't around to receive it. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, PlayStation Pete. Well, that's very kind of you, man. Yeah, I don't know. I would feel... That's like one of those things where it's like, man, it would be awesome. It would be awesome to get the 30th PS5 Pro, but I don't know, I'd feel like there's some kind of weight with it too. Like, I have a responsibility. I got to hold on to this thing forever now. I got to put this in a glass case. Like, that's one of those things that I don't know that I could use, just because, like, just knowing that so few of them were made, like maybe I'd use it for a little bit, but then like, okay, not too much. Now I'm going to put it away. Safekeeping. Gavin, you're saying your friend feels scammed after what happened with Silent Hill. You know what's interesting? That, people are bringing up Silent Hill 2. Does anybody else find it strange that, well, not strange, that's the wrong word to use. Maybe it was very intentional that they didn't advertise this game was PS5 Pro Enhanced. Because I don't know if anybody noticed this. Silent Hill 2 was not listed, man. Like, the only way we found out Silent Hill 2 was PS5 Pro Enhanced was after the Pro came out on the store, it said PS5 Pro Enhanced. It was never marketed. It was never on any of Sony's lists. And I wonder if this is why. I wonder if it was because they kind of knew, like, this isn't turning out well. But we already marked it on the store as PS5 Pro Enhanced. Wasn't it in the sizzle reel? I don't think so. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong, but I don't think it was ever marketed as PS5 Pro Enhanced. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the PS5 Pro, it's understandable why people have such a negative view of it right now. I get it. I don't share that purely negative view. I have a more positive, optimistic view of the PS5 Pro. But I think all that's going to matter in the end is when we move on to the PlayStation 6, whenever that is, 2028. That's the year that I'm going to say we're going to get the PlayStation 6. November 2028, when it comes time to pre-order your PlayStation 6 for however much that's going to cost, I think that's when it's going to be worth really, truly looking back at the Pro and asking ourselves, like, was this a good console? Or was it a scam? I don't think many people are truly going to feel scammed, but was it a letdown? Was it underwhelming? And again, I'm more optimistic in that, no, I highly, highly doubt that that's how we're going to look back on it. But it is possible, dude. It is possible. And it'll be different for each person. But my hope very much is that I'm not going to have to wait till 2028. Right? That's my hope. Obviously, I don't want to wait till 2028 to get the most out of my console that I just bought. But within the next 6 to 9 months, I'm fully expecting like there's going to be some great stuff. At the very least, within the next 12 months, right? 223 Gaming, thank you so much, buddy. You not only re-upped your membership, it looks like you upgraded to Play Has No Limits, so you want to support at a higher tier. 223 Gaming, thank you, my friend. I very much appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And that brings us up to 15 members. So, guys, I know we have a goal of 50. It's looking like we're not going to hit that goal today, which, again, is fine. We will still do a morning with the missus. I can't guarantee it'll be tomorrow. But we can still strive for the goal of 25. All right, we could still strive for 25. Does that rhyme? I feel like if we hit 25, we'll feed the beast. We have PlayStation Pete with another super chat, 2 super chats. He says, I will give you my 30th Pro if I could meet you in person and get your autograph in 4 years. I love PlayStation Pete's caveat. Whiskey Gaming's like, it's a trap. MBG was never seen again. No, I'm just kidding, PlayStation Pete. No, that's very kind of you, bro. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. PlayStation Pete, 4 years from now, if I'm still streaming and you're still here, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe at that point nobody's going to care about the 30th Pro. He wants to steal MBG's identity. We'll see, man. We'll see, PlayStation Pete. He's gonna show up with an Xbox, bro. That's what he's gonna do. He's like, all right, MBG, this is where we're gonna meet. And you give me an autograph, I'll give you the 30th anniversary Pro. He gives me the box. I open it. It's an Xbox Series X. He's like running away. He's gonna kidnap me and take my place. All right, guys, this is PlayStation Pete. PlayStation Pete says, it's not a trap. I'm an honest, hardworking man. I don't keep old hardware when the PS6 comes out. Now, I know PlayStation Pete. We're just messing with you. You're a cool dude, bro. I mean, look, I don't know you personally, but from what I gather, you seem like a pretty chill dude. Saying you're hard, yeah, you seemingly do work hard, man. You're always telling me on the channel how you got like these long work weeks, putting a lot of hours in. So I respect it, man. I do. And we'll see. Like I said, we'll come back to this 4 years from now around October, November 2028. Time's gonna fly. It's weird because it feels so long from now, but like before I know it, it's gonna be that time, and PlayStation P is gonna be like, so bro, you want my 30th Pro? We have let's see here. Rich Rod 908, the troublemaker, member for 16 months. He says, "You're lucky I'm at work, Kojima. You ugly sucker. I will fight you." Cyborg and Punch Face Colt. MB Gangsta stand up. Xbox are losers for even liking Xbox. Rich Rod, thank you once. You know what? I'm not going to thank you this time, Rich Rod, because this is a milestone chat. So I don't even get anything in return for reading this. Rich Rod's like, you're lucky I'm at work. Didn't our parents warn us about internet strangers? You're lucky I'm at work, Kojima. I think Kojima's at work too. Actually, I think Kojima's sleeping right now, if I had to guess. All right, let me see. Let me go see if there's anything that has come out that I've missed. Doesn't look like it. Okay. I just saw a picture of the black DualSense Edge. Is anybody interested in this? A black DualSense Edge? That's true, Rich Rod. You're right. My bad. I will thank you. You're saying you get another month of membership. That's true. That's true. Thank you. Thank you for your support, Rich Rod. I do appreciate it. Got to keep me honest. I'm telling you, Rich, we got to reform you, though. We have to reform you. We need to get you talking. I want to see less negativity towards things that don't matter and more positivity towards the things that do. We got to reform you, man. Meanwhile, the next chat, another month of me threatening your enemies. Like, oh, okay. Well, one step at a time. One step at a time. We'll get there. We'll get there. I believe in you. Rumor. Switch 2 to be revealed in January and released in March of 2025. Uh-oh. Wow, that's really quick. What do you guys think? So let me read this. This is coming from... I'm on the Gaming Leaks Rumor subreddit. This information comes from Nintendo Prime, but we will focus mainly on the rumor itself for the purposes of talking about it. Nintendo Prime found a rumor posted in Weibo that he machine translated it, but couldn't verify it with a fluent Chinese language speaker. As such, we are also subject to what the translation says. And so there's room for misinterpretation in the details. It says the Switch 2 will officially be announced in January of 2025 and will be released in March of 2025. We don't know how well this aligns with theories that Nintendo Switch 2's release schedule is going on as planned, or if they sped up or slowed down the schedule. Somebody says new leaking meta, just post in Chinese and suddenly you're credible. I mean, that sounds plausible to me though, you know? I think the idea is everybody is under the impression that the reveal and the release is going to happen this fiscal year, and I'm pretty sure the fiscal year ends April 1st. So yeah, and that does align with the Switch one. It does. You're saying that's the same as last time, is it? Teddy's, you're saying that DualSense Edge, yeah, I guess you're talking about the black DualSense Edge, was that 250 pounds? What is that in US dollars? Because I know the Edge is 200 US dollars. I don't think it got a price increase. That's like $300. Yeah, that's pricey. That's pricey. First Nintendo Alarmo, now introducing Nintendo Lampo. I laugh, but it sounds so real. It sounds so real, dude. Like that's, yes, Nintendo Lampo. What else could they do? Nintendo Microwavo. Nintendo's so weird. What's up, Corey? Corey wants to feed the beast. Yo, MBG, you know if Sony acquires Katakawa, we will all get Bloodborne 2 one day, right? Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with this Katakawa situation. The more I think about it, I think that if Sony does acquire Katakawa and they do end up essentially, for all intents and purposes, owning FromSoftware, the more I think about it, I'm wondering if they're just not going to do anything. Like, that's an option, dude. Like, they could just do nothing. It's like, hey, just so you know, we own you now. All right, peace. You know, like, we're out. I don't know how likely that is, but it's an option. It's an option. They could just do nothing. And I feel like the results wouldn't be that bad. Disco Cobra 2013 with a super chat says, you thinking a GTA 6 trailer will drop in December like last time? Been hearing rumblings, but nothing for sure. Hope so. Getting antsy. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I've been trying not to think about it too much because I'm like, well, it's kind of like the PlayStation Showcase, you know? Is it real? Is it going to happen? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe one day, but no, I do think we're going to get trailer number 2 in December. I do. I think that it makes sense because, well, truthfully, I think that Rockstar's in a position where they can drop a trailer whenever they want, and it's going to set everything on fire. But I just feel like December, right before, I don't know, it could be before or after the Game Awards, but like right before everybody kind of goes on holiday and is chilling out, you know, going into New Year's, I think it's a good time. I think it would be a good time. I don't necessarily have any rhyme or reason. I mean, I've been seeing people they've been coming up with the most complex reasoning and theories as to why, you know, like, oh, they're going to drop the trailer on this date at this time and the moon is going to be you know, it's like, okay, I don't know that there's truth to any of that. And I don't think it's worth getting into all that. Like, they'll do it when they want to do it, but I don't know. My recommendation would be kind of similar to how I'm approaching the whole, is there a PlayStation event happening in the first week of December? Just, it's okay to hope for it and want it, but don't necessarily get your hopes up and hang on to it like it's going to happen, you know? Oh my God, YouTube cannot stop glitching out. I think. Hold on, guys. Did it again. I'm not listen, I'm not kidding you. When I tell you that I think my YouTube studio has crashed a total of like 13 times over the course of the last 2 hours and 40 minutes, I'm not exaggerating. 13 times or more. But yeah, Disco Cobra, there are, like you're saying, there are rumblings of a trailer, but I don't think anybody actually knows. I think it's just the fact that we saw GTA revealed for the first time late last year. I can't remember if it was, I think it was in December. So this idea that they would want to kind of just wait a year and give you the second trailer, again, there's not much to it other than just the logic of it's 1 year later, but why not? You know, like I don't, I mean, we've been talking for years now about the idea of Sony actually having the marketing rights to GTA 6. Guys, I am trying to figure out right now, is my chat busted? Because it hasn't moved for me. And it's still not moving. Oh, wait, I could see Titus. His message went through. Leo, you're saying tried to send another super chat. You're saying it didn't let you? Dude, I'm telling you, like, ooh, YouTube is so broken. Like, I'm getting really frustrated. I'm like trying to like not dwell on it. You're saying it won't let you? Well, the chat does seem to be working. Yeah, this is very frustrating. I mean, for you, but me as well, you know? I don't understand what causes YouTube to break this much. I'm at least glad I know it's not just me. Because, like, shit's breaking on my end. My studio crashed like 13 times today. Leo's saying he's trying to super chat and it straight up won't let him. And yeah, and the chat just is like freezing at times. Very, very frustrating, man. I mean, I don't expect perfection from YouTube, but I will say that the streaming experience on YouTube has degraded a lot on my end in terms of just usability and consistency. It's degraded so much in the last like 6 months where I don't know what they're doing, but they're breaking stuff. They're breaking stuff. It's running on Stadia servers. Well, there you go, Leo Jimmy. I'm glad your super chat was able to go through. I appreciate that, buddy. You're saying MBG Money God Tier Dynasty has returned. It will take me into Ghosts. Pro is great. I still got my PS5 hooked up. Been comparing God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man. Fidelity and performance are combined. PS, give Rich Rod a medal. Damn. Rich Rod, I don't know if you're still here, bro, but Leo straight up giving you a medal. Leo's cheering you on, man. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I watched Digital Foundry's analysis of God of War Ragnarok, and it seems like Santa Monica has a really good hold on PSSR, because you're right. Like, when I played, I'm like, God of War Ragnarok looks so good. Same thing with Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man was a little bit more noticeable for me, but God of War Ragnarok looks so good. It's like, geez, man, I don't know. Like, I know there's a difference here, but I think it's just kind of a testament, again, to how good Sony's first-party games already look. But yeah, man, some of these games, I don't want to say they're not getting enough credit. I don't think that's the right way to put it. But I think that maybe some people are not appreciating enough. Like, what, again, not saying you have to purchase the console to appreciate it, but just the fact that, like, we are kind of getting to this point where at least with some of these games, what you are getting is what you were promised, which is like, this is the fidelity mode running at 60 frames, you know? It's the early days, but I would say Spider-Man 2, I did notice it when I was playing the performance mode. I did notice it was like everything looked much sharper. Everything looked clear. Everything at a distance, I could see much more clearly. Obviously, the ray tracing looked a lot better. When I was playing God of War Ragnarok, I had to look a little bit harder, but with God of War Ragnarok, in some of the areas, I didn't play it that long, but for some of the areas, I did notice like things do seem a bit sharper. I don't know, like maybe I was just kind of I don't know if that was more of like a placebo, like I want to believe it looks sharper, but yeah, man. I can't wait to see a brand new first party game drop with pro support. That's what I'm interested in seeing next. Titus, you're saying Asmongold was complaining yesterday about it, MBG, so it's not just you. Well, that actually makes me feel a lot better because it's even affecting, I guess, like much bigger streamers. So YouTube's clearly got some work to do. Corey, you're saying my prediction for the Game Awards is GTA 6 trailer after the reveal from Konami selling the rights to Metal Gear. Damn, Corey, that escalated quickly, man. Selling the... I will tell you, you know what? When I was reading what you said, Corey, I was like, nah. There's no way Metal Gear is going to show up at the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley hosts the Game Awards, but I think that's the one exception. If Konami was going to sell the rights of Metal Gear to somebody, I think that's the one exception Jeff Keighley would make. But no, I don't think Konami's going to sell the rights to Metal Gear, bro. Not anytime soon, anyway. I remember there was that rumor a couple years back that Sony apparently tried. I don't know if there's truth to it, but Sony tried to buy it, and Konami was like, no. How crazy would that have been? It's Beast Mode. You're saying I absolutely love my PS5 Pro Anniversary Edition. Everything looks better and runs so much smoother. Man, huge W. Yeah, I saw your picture as well. It's Beast Mode. I think you tagged me on Twitter. I'm not jealous. I'm not. It looks good, man. No, that's awesome, though. That's awesome. Congrats, dude. Konami will never sell. Look at how well Silent Hill 2 did. Apparently, Silent Hill 2 did do pretty good. Yeah, it did do pretty good. You're saying you need to adjust motion blur and film grain in the Spider-Man games and Naughty Dog games on the Pro. It outputs different than the base to fine-tune it. I did see that Digital Foundry just put up their analysis of The Last of Us Part 1. I don't know if they did Part 2 as well, but I got to watch that next. Meow says feed the beast. Guys, listen, probably I'll go a little bit longer because I'm actually, I'm not in any rush or anything and I'm enjoying the conversation, but we probably will be wrapping up in the next, I would say 10 to 15 minutes or so. So if you want to feed the beast before we wrap up, where are we at now? So we're honing in. I will say we're closing in on the super chat goal. We're 14 out of 20. So 6 more super chats, teal or higher, gets the job done. We can feed the beast, or 10 more memberships, and we can feed the beast. If we happen to get both, we'll feed the beast a little bit extra. Give him a little bit extra, fatten him up. Dude, the way Boss has been acting these days, though, man, he's like, every time I go to sit down and eat, he's like sitting there, like clawing at me, like begging for food. I'm like, bro, I feed you every morning. Like I know how much you're eating throughout the day, bro. Like I know you're not starving. I mean, just look at you. You're built like a tank. You're built like a tank. Like, but I cave and I give him a little bit. If I'm eating chicken, I give him a little bit. And Corey does it, bro. Corey the legend. He drops the hammer. He drops the 10 bomb. And it's good to see that it's not glitching out. He says, you know what? We got to do it. We got to feed the beast. we got to make sure we end it on a high note. So, Corey, thank you so much once again for dropping another 10 bomb for the community. See how I can do this, because we got both we got all three cats in here. Actually, we got Boss, Luna, and Leia. I just want to make sure Boss and Luna don't go at it. So we'll feed the beast. Let me just update this. All right.
Boss, do you read me? It's time to feed the beast.
All right, Luna. Boss beat you to the punch. Boss is learning, though. He was very quick. He He immediately came over because he's like, I ain't risking it. Luna, please don't attack Leia. She's not doing anything to you. Luna, why are you so mean to Leia? I know you guys can't see what just happened, but Luna's sitting underneath me. Leia just came over like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? What are you doing? And Luna's just like about to smack her. Like, bro, she's not even a threat. She's old. She's old and chill. Cats, man. There we go. Meow says, move your mic. What are you, some kind of idiot? Meow didn't say that. I said that. All right. Let's see. Guys, by the way, thank you for getting us to 200 likes. We're actually sitting at 206 likes. You guys have been doing a great job today, making sure you hit that like button. I'll continue to encourage it before we, reach the final stage of the stream today. And I do want to let you know we are going to be moving over to a members lounge after this. I feel like I totally failed to mention that throughout this entire stream. We are going to be doing a members lounge after this stream wraps up. Probably not a super long one, but we're going to head over there. So if you are a channel member, please look forward to that. Yeah, we'll probably go for like another 7 minutes or so, and then we'll move over to the members lounge. Chris, yeah, I don't. I'm just not even paying attention at this point, man. I'm going to be honest. I've checked out because like there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. NATO readies for conflict. France and UK Ukraine deployment. Recent discussions with NATO have highlighted an increased focus on defense readiness, with the alliance's military committee chairman advocating for preemptive strategies and businesses being urged to prepare for potential wartime scenarios. France and the United Kingdom are considering deploying troops to Ukraine, a move that coincides with talks of arming Ukraine with nuclear capabilities. Okay, although no concrete decisions or actions have been publicly confirmed from these discussions. Wow. Okay, I stopped paying attention for like 2 days, and I come back, and it's like, well, that genuinely escalated quickly. All right, Luna, it's your turn. Boss, don't act like that. Don't act like you didn't just stuff your face. Don't come walking over. Don't come trotting over here looking at me like, yo, you giving her treats too now? You're like, yes, I've been giving her treats, boss. You know this. We have to share. He's just sitting here growling now, dude. Like, come on, man. Come on. This was like the 80s, brother. Nuclear war was only a smidgen away every week. Trump wants to build the Iron Dome in America. What is the Iron Dome? William G, you're saying, do we not get reps anymore? Where's the muscle in muscle-bound gaming? All right, well, listen. The truth is, William, I had to stop lifting weights for now. I have to wait until I get tested to find out if I have a hiatal hernia. So, unfortunately, I can't really lift at the moment. The idea is if I find out I'm clear and I don't, yeah, boss didn't give permission, of course. As long as I find out I'm good and I'm clear, I don't have any kind of hernia, and I'm not going to make it worse. But until I find out, I can't risk it. You know, I don't want to risk making anything worse. No, it's all good, dude. It's all good. It's something we've been doing on the channel, and I miss it too. But hopefully I'll be back to doing it, man. You know, that would be ideal, because that would mean there is no hernia and I'm all good. Ray says we all have tickets to the gun show. Let's see them. At this point, I feel like I'm losing a little bit of muscle, you know? I'm trying not to... Oh, by the way, I forgot to shout this out. I did put a new lineup of mugs. I don't know if it's showing on the channel. I don't know if it's like showing below the stream or not, but it's a new Games and Gains logo that I made. Nothing too fancy, just something very simple. The mugs, they're a little bit pricey, obviously, because it's like custom merch. Can't do much about that, at least not as much as I would like. I got to keep it within reason. But, you know, if there's another way you want to support the channel, it's small, but it's also maybe useful. I don't know. You could check out those mugs. I'm just keeping mugs for now. I don't know if people want like that design or that logo on a shirt or whatever. The Rant Juice mug, yeah, maybe I'll bring that back too. But it's just there for anybody who might be interested in it. Boss teaches CQC. Yeah. Yeah, that's what he'd want you to think. In reality, boss starts screaming at Luna and runs away. I think it's going to be Luna starting to teach boss some CQC, bro. For real. Alex Jones said, "End of the world alert." The Biden administration is proposing the transfer of nuclear weapons to Ukraine to be used against Russia. This constitutes the largest and most dangerous nuclear escalation in history. I mean, I know it's funny because it's Alex Jones, but I feel like for once it's like, yeah, that seems to be exactly what's happening right now. Oh, by the way, guys, I just noticed we got the 3-minute countdown. I didn't realize it did that. 3-minute countdown timer for 20 teal super chats. Guys, we got 3 minutes to hit this goal. It's okay if we don't. We hit 25 members, which I'm very happy with and I appreciate. But I'm just letting you know, it's counting down now. So you're saying if that's for real, we're in some deep shit. Just in, United Kingdom and France in talks to deploy troops to Ukraine. I mean, dude, the idea of giving nuclear weapons to Ukraine is truly terrifying. Like, I understand why they're thinking about doing it, because it's like, well, you know, nuclear deterrence. We gotta make it difficult for Russia to use nukes, right? Because Russia is they dropped the world's first ICBM. I think it was obviously it was a non-nuclear ICBM, but it was a flex. It was a flex to be like, we'll do it. We'll do it. And so the response in this case seems to be, okay, well, we're going to, guys, hey, can we at least have peace in this home? Is that a possibility? Corey saying Spec Ops Canada heard snarling in the shadows. That's World War III right there, bro. Everyone is gearing up. I mean, it just feels kind of ridiculous to me, like really, this is where we are. Like, this is what we got to, like, we got to threaten each other with nukes that are, and basically, yeah, I mean, like, let's be honest, dude, if a nuke does drop, I mean, it's like, I don't know that it's over, but it's just like, from that point forward, I don't know, like, where do we go from here? Like, I thought we learned, like, the U.S. dropped the only nuclear bombs in history, and clearly, like, afterwards, we were like everybody's like, holy shit. Oh shit. I didn't realize it would be that bad, and you would kind of think that we learned from that, but saying no one is nuking anybody. You would hope so. You would hope so. It's in our nature. Yeah. Well, guys, don't want to stray too far. Got to save it for the members lounge. We're going to wrap this stream up. We're going to head over to the members lounge for a little while. I really hope all of my members that are here now will join me over there for a little while and hang out. So before I go, I want to extend a big thank you to everybody who not only joined the stream and watched the content, but supported the channel directly. You guys, as I have said and will continue to say, as long as it's true, are the sponsors of the channel. Anybody who dropped any membership gifts, anybody who became a member, anybody who dropped any super chats. And actually, before I go, I want to make sure I didn't miss any direct donations, because sometimes I do miss them. Luna and Leia are like fighting, like low-key fighting right now. Okay. No, didn't miss any direct donations, which is good. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for all the support. Share link for people to rejoin who weren't gifted. Yeah, I'll do that really quick. I should probably start doing that. Hold on one moment, guys, before we wrap this up. Okay, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. For anybody who's not a channel member, and, wasn't able to get a membership gift, but, wants to consider rejoining to join the members lounge with us, there's the link to rejoin. And, yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the streams. Devil Shooter, thank you so much for what you do, man. Appreciate you always dropping the, dropping the timestamps for the, dropping the timestamps for the channel here. My brain is breaking as I'm trying to speak. So, all right, guys, that wraps up today's stream. I had a good time talking with you. Luna, please stop attacking Leia. We're going to head over to the members lounge, all right? That stream's going to pop up in just a minute. So I hope to see you guys there. And to everybody else, I will catch you in the next one. So until then, take care, everyone.